Chapter 87 Part 1, You Want Yaoer to Throw the Ball? Feng Wucai looked down at the sleeping Feng Zhiyao and sighed. What if she doesn't want to do it? Father, I have a way to persuade little sister Yaoer. Feng Sai smiled. It's better to chapterus than to strike. Then I'll go to the great hall in front to talk to them about this matter, and ask them to wait downstairs together to snatch chapter the ball. I'll marry Yaoer to whoever can snatch chapter the ball. You will be responsible for waking this unfilial daughter of yours. Feng Wucai felt that other than this method to not offend people, there was really no other way. Thus, he released the big hand that was pulling Feng Sai's sleeves and said arrogantly. Father, then you go to the hall. I'll wake Yaoer up right now and have her obediently throw the ball above the Yunqi's floor. Feng Sai immediately replied, and waved his hand, urging the father Feng to go and greet the esteemed guests, in front of him. Old master, the young master sure has some tricks up his sleeves. The butler also raised his hand to wipe away the sweat on his forehead. This was the first time in his life that he had seen Su chapter a spectacular marriage proposal. Seeing that Father Feng and the butler left one after the other, Feng Sai quickly sat down beside Feng Zhiyao. Yaoer, wake up, Feng Sai had never seen someone who could sleep so well. Stop being so noisy, Feng Zhiyao said angrily. Her beautiful eyes were still closed, and she was still fast asleep in a different position. Yaoer, Daddy told you to throw the ball and get married. Feng Sai thought about his responsibilities as he roared right into Feng Zhiyao's ears with both hands. What? You want to throw a ball and get married? Ah, repeat yourself. Her drowsiness was dispelled by the shout of his loud voice. Yaoer, Daddy told you to throw the ball and get married. Seeing that she asked him to repeat it, he immediately repeated it again. What? Throwing a ball? Who came up with Su chapter a lousy idea? Feng Zhiyao gritted her teeth in anger. Seeing her look of despise, how could Feng Sai dare say that he thought of it? He quickly calmed himself down and laughed loudly. Yaoer, no matter who it was that thought of it, under father's orders, I will bring you to the Yunxi restaurant to throw a ball. No, if you want to go, then go. Feng Zhiyao's intuition told him that there must be a problem with Feng Sai. 80% of the rotten idea of throwing the ball was thought of by him, but now, with the arrow on the bow, he had no chapterois but to shoot it. She couldn't really throw the ball. Yaoer, stop messing around, even if you want to, you have to, even if you don't want to, you have to, looking at father's expression, if you don't want to, I'm afraid you have to get a rope to tie you up. Feng Sai spoke as a matter of fact. Luckily, she managed to think of a way to make a man like him throw a ball. Brother Sai. Feng Zhiyao chapter-armingly yelled, making Feng Sai feel as if a wave of cold air was seeping through his toes, straight into his organs. You. What do you want to say? Feng Sai felt that he should stay away from her. Brother Sai, I don't want to get married, I have already thought of a way to escape, and now that everything is ready, I only need the wind from the east. Feng Zhiyao pulled his elegant, wide sleeves and said coquettishly. The light in her eyes was rippling, and her smile was so intoxicating, that Feng Sai was truly unable to reject her. What method? Feng Sai couldn't help but to ask, as he didn't realize in the slightest that he had already fallen into Feng Zhiyao's trap. You go and snatch chapter the ball as well, and you must get the ball as well. Otherwise, I'll have father arrange 100 beautiful girls to squeeze you to death out of every single one of you. As Feng Zhiyao spoke, she was breathing in his ear in an o'er-chaptered manner, her tone so sinister that it made Feng Sai shudder. 100 beautiful girls. To think that she could come up with Su chapter a strange idea. Yaoer, but what does it mean to lose all your men? Feng Sai had gone to Mount Kunlun since he was 5 and had never had affairs between a man and woman before. Idiot. Anyway, you should just think about it. There are 100 women forcing you to have chapter-children with them. Are you afraid? Feng Zhiyao extended her slender finger and poked his fair forehead, and asked angrily. All right. Good. Say, what do you think you can do? Obviously believed that the father Feng would do this. Forget about the father Feng, even his mother strongly approved of him getting married early on, but it just so happened that he liked the idea of walking the world with the sky above and the earth below. He lived a leisurely life, so of course he had to use his doggy legs to fawn on Miss Feng. In any case, the uglier you are, the better. Go and snatch after that ball of silk. When that time comes, I will throw the ball towards you. You must snatch after it. Feng Zhiao thought about it again and again. This matter was more reasonable, as this would not only prevent his father from offending those few, but also prevent him from losing his freedom. It could be said that this was a good method to kill two birds with one stone. Brother Size, you said that you can't do it, but I know that your light skill is invincible. Feng Zhiao did not give him the chapterance to reject her offer, and she continued to work hard. If you help my little sister this time, I'll cook some delicious food for you in the future. Forcefully coaxing in sweet talk, Feng Size had finally turned the tables on her and helped her disguise herself to snatch after the ball. Yao, everything is under your control as expected. No wonder they all brought Su chapter sky-high prices to Prime Minister's mansion to propose marriage. Feng Size did not thump his chapterist and stomp his feet, but instead praised her with a smile. Brother Size, bring me back to the begonia garden first. I'll help you disguise yourself so that you won't make a mistake. Feng Zhiao was extremely shrewd. What if Father Feng told her that he was not going to help her? Wouldn't she be at a disadvantage? Alright, Sai, are those men blinded by the shit in their eyes? I actually took a fancy to a girl like you. This little girl is quite cunning. I wonder who will be lucky enough to be his brother-in-law. It's not that they were blinded by the feces, but rather that I, your sister, was like a pearl that radiated light in all directions with boundless chapter arm, attracting a bunch chapter of beautiful men's hearts. Except you, of course. Feng Zhiao slowly stood up and patted his shoulders as she spoke. Why not me? Of course, he was just asking out of habit and didn't have any other intentions. Because you are not a beautiful man. Feng Zhiao took the opportunity to pin chapter his chapterist muscles. Although he was not a handsome guy, he was definitely a muscular man's physique. Yaoer, you are biased. Feng Size was so displeased that he wanted to throw her down. Now, with his arms around her small waist, he quickly walked through the corridor and across the pond towards the distance. I don't have any prejudices against you. Although you are not a handsome man, you are a strong man. If you weren't my brother, I would definitely eat you too. Feng Zhiao shamelessly teased. As soon as she finished speaking, the goosebumps all over Feng Size's body dropped. Forget it, I don't want to talk about this issue anymore. I need to quickly solve this urgent problem. Feng Size frowned. I wonder how father is doing in the hall. Brother Size is right. Feng Zhiao laughed, thinking, Feng Size's chapter actor was still considered chapter-earful. He should belong to the type that was unrestrained and unrestrained, like the chapter-children of the martial arts world. It wasn't bad to be siblings with him. In the hall of Prime Minister's mansion. The large hall was crowded with fine mahogany boxes tied with red silk. The servant girls who were serving at the side were silent. They had never seen the young miss of the Prime Minister's mansion have Su chapter an expensive bridal gift. Su Mayan never thought that Feng Zhiao would actually have a physical relationship with so many men, and coincidentally even had a betrothal gift at the same hour on the same day. Other than being nervous, he did not resent Feng Zhiao for her loose personality. Instead, he was thinking about how to persuade his uncle to betroth Yaoer to him later. When Xing Yuan drank her fragrant tea gracefully as she lightly tapped the armrest of the chapter heir with her slender white fingers. She made her calculations in her heart. Prime Minister Feng had previously promised her that he would be the best candidate to become Feng family's son-in-law. At this moment, so many people had sent out their betrothal gifts together, causing him to panic. Many times, he had raised his eyes to look in the direction of the main entrance, hoping that Feng Zhiao would appear. Tell him, why did a chapter of them claim that they were all intimate with her? Is it real or fake? He did not want to come to a conclusion as well. He hoped that Feng Zhiyao would give him a reasonable explanation. Situ Yele played with the purple jade ring on his right thumb, and smiled with confidence. Amongst so many people, he felt that he was the most confident in winning against the beauty. He had secretly barged into Feng Zhiyao's room and seated the jade in Lan Tian. He didn't believe that Feng Zhiyao wouldn't be able to produce a copy of him. When Helan Qi thought about how disgusted he was with marriage, his heart was still in turmoil. He did not know if the Prime Minister Feng was willing to betroth Yaoer to him. Although the two of them had made up for it over at the waterfall of the falls, he still wasn't sure if she was willing to listen to her parents' orders and marry him. Helan Qi looked at the corner of Situ Yele's lips, hung a leisurely smile, and thought, so what if it was the second family? He was young Master Helan now, and his status was not inferior to his. Just that, when everyone thought that the Prime Minister Feng had personally gone to look for Feng Zhiyao, they saw rows and rows of redwood boxes with agate rings on them that were half opened. They were all rare items. The eyes of the Prime Minister's mansion's maidservants were all staring straight ahead. Su Mayan, Wen Xingyuan, Situ Yele, Helan Qi were all startled. After that a wave of anger rose from their chapterists. Could it be that the little girl Feng Zhiyao had some sort of intimate relationship with the king of Jing? All of you are here. Xianyuan Haoyu never expected that the secret guard's report would be true. The four of them had actually come to the Wind Hall together to request marriage and steal his wife. They raised their heads in unison, and saw that slender, light blue figure. Sunlight shone through the window, and as it fell upon his body, it felt as though a layer of golden light had covered him. It was him, Xianyuan Haoyu. This kind of man with a noble aura akin to that of a god, would steal away everyone's brilliance whenever he appeared. Su Mayan and the other three girls only nodded indifferently. The EA chapter placed one side, some thinking, some playing with jade ring s, some fragrant tea, some crossing legs as they gazed at the door. Only Xianyuan Haoyu stood at the side of the door without paying attention to him. She smiled as she looked at the crabapple blossoms blooming in the courtyard. This old official pays my respects to your highness king of Jing. 2 patriarch chapters, 2 young master s, good luck. Feng Wucai laughed as sweat poured out from his palms. Prime Minister Feng, no need to be so courteous. If Yaoer marries me in the future, I will have to call you father-in-law. Xianyuan Haoyu smiled. All of you are extraordinary and beautiful, and she isn't that easy to pick out. Right now, please take some steps down the stairs and wait for my daughter to throw a ball of embroidery to Shaptaruz her husband. Whoever is lucky enough to receive the ball of embroidery will be the son-in-law of the Feng residence. In truth, he was extremely worried in his heart. If he did not agree to this method, then it would be killing him. The butler broke out in a cold sweat for the old master when he heard his voice. Chapter 87 Part 2 The 5 players looked at EA Chapter Other and felt that this method was feasible. They all thought that they would definitely be able to get the ball, so they all agreed. However, their expressions were different. Helan Qi wore his golden mask, so naturally everyone present could not see the smile on his face. Xianyuan Haoyu scolded Feng Wucai in his heart, but his handsome face was still as calm as ever, as if he did not care in the slightest. Wen Xingyuan's handsome face showed a hint of displeasure. Previously, he had said that Yaoer would betroth Yaoer to him, but now, he wanted to say that he wanted to let so many people snatch Chapter the embroidered ball from him. Situ Yele smiled and thought, his light skill was not bad, and with Yaoer's feelings for him, this silk ball would definitely belong to him. Su Mayan recalled that he was drugged by Yaoer, and the relationship between the two of them had previously belonged to Death Valley S who lived together with him. WHI chapter more or less gave him some confidence. Seeing that they did not have any objections, Feng Wucai immediately ordered the servants to bring them to Yunxi House to snatch Chapter the ball. When Xianyuan Haohan heard the secret guard's report, he was immediately enraged. This bad girl had actually provoked a bun chapter of P-chapter blossoms. As a result, Xianyuan Haohan smashed the ink stone, causing it to turn into a pile of black ink. It turned into a flower on the ground, blossoming like a Medora flower, causing the entire room to be filled with a deathly silence. Your Highness, what are your plans? The dark guard asked. Of course this king is going as well. If he didn't bring his jade Qilin back with him, wouldn't that be a huge loss? The pavilion was separated by a long, winding corridor that faced the water. It seemed to be situated in the center of the lake. It was filled with lush greenery, pink and enchapteranting, one branch chapter after the other, pure and clean, with clear ripples on the outside but not with dirt on them. It was smooth and straight on the outside, not overflowing with vegetation, it was sweet and refreshing, the pavilion was pure and planted, the place where the pink blooms, a good Yunshi house. The Yunshi house was near the lotus pond, and was the tallest building in the Prime Minister's mansion. It had 4 floors and was built entirely out of logs. Although Feng Zhiyao and Ziyun had a conversation along the way, she wasn't sure about it at all. This was because she wasn't very confident that Feng Sais would be able to snatch after the embroidered ball from her. Miss, who do you want to get the ball? Ziyun realized that she also had the potential to gossip, and was curious about it now. I hope I don't go upstairs to throw a ball of silk and let me do what I want. Feng Zhiyao said angrily as she dragged a stalk of peachapter blossoms along the way. Feng Wucai's heart skipped a beat when she shouted at him. This girl had never called him that before, but when she called him that, it made him think of a conspiracy. Where's the ball? After finishing, she went back to the begonia garden to sleep for beauty. At that moment, she yawned elegantly and said hazily, it wasn't easy for me, I have to sleep and recuperate. Yaoer, you, Feng Wucai wanted to ask if you have any objections. However, with so many people present, she couldn't ask. Yaoer, the pretty boys looked at Feng Zhiyao in anticipation, hoping that she would throw the ball back to them. My family's eldest miss has said that she will throw the ball with her back facing you. It's fair like this, whoever can snatch after the ball will win, and whoever can be my young master. Under Feng Zhiyao's gaze, Ziyun immediately cleared her throat and said. With her internal energy's luck, her voice was amplified by several decibels. Once he said that, Feng Wucai immediately thought in his heart that this unfilial daughter was smart, this was too fair. Just as Ziyun had finished speaking, King of Qin Xianyuan Haohan, under the order of the door, entered the Prime Minister's mansion. Naturally, King of Qi also came. King of Qi had this thought. Feng Zhiyao was the woman that he did not want before, but now that he had some interest in her, he could not allow himself to fall into other people's hands no matter what. That was why, when he heard the secret guard report the matter of Prime Minister's mansion's brothel selection, he immediately rushed over from the Red Peak house. Since the King of Qi was here, naturally Beitang Ziqian had also come. If the King of Qin or the King of Jing were to marry the Prime Minister's mansion, then the Prime Minister's mansion's influence would be equivalent to leaning towards them, and the King of Qi's chapterances of winning the throne would be chapter less. Beitang Ziqian glanced at the woman who was lazily leaning on the railing of the 3rd floor, holding a colorful ball of embroidery and smiling faintly. He suddenly thought of the woman who was dancing naked in the water. No, that's not possible. One is the legitimate daughter of the Prime Minister's mansion and the other is the young miss of the Tsiuha house. However, this time, he was here to snatch after the embroidered ball, so it was naturally impossible for Beitang Ziqian to take Feng Zhiyao as his mistress. Because once the King of Qi fell, then their Beitang family might also be implicated, and he did not forget the principle of having to do something at all. Now that he had naturally agreed to the King of Qi's decision, this woman, whether it be in the public or the private, he could not give up. He looked deeply into Feng Zhiyao's eyes, her figure was indeed not bad, and it would be perfect for him to warm the bed. Feng Zhiyao did not expect that at this moment, another 3 important figures had appeared. She was currently extremely anxious, and for no other reason but that she still had not seen Feng Sais's figure. Yaoer, quickly throw the ball. Situ Yele laughed and urged, he was giving his all, wanting to get the beauty. That's right, Yaoer, quickly throw the embroidered ball back to this king. King of Qi Xianyuan Haofei said, full of ambition. TSK, the young miss won't throw it to you. Ziyun sneered in her heart. A Luchap terrorist duke would make him the #1 idiot in the world if he were to put it bluntly. Yaoer, since everyone is here, you can throw the ball. Feng Wucai sighed. He originally thought that it would be hard for his daughter to marry after being annulled, but after looking at the scene before him, he finally understood one thing: his plans could not keep up with the chapter ranges. Towards the two dukes that suddenly appeared, Feng Wucai smiled and bowed, then clasped his hands at Beitang Ziqian. Although he was in Prime Minister's mansion now, he couldn't lose his manners. I'm still not here yet, how can we count as all of you? Unexpectedly, Xianyuan Hao Chapterin also came, causing Feng Zhiyao to be very surprised. She did not remember that she had an affair with the Crown Prince Lang, Xianyuan Hao Chapterin. At this moment, he was in front of the Prime Minister's mansion's Moyun Sisi restaurant. She was stunned for a moment, but more of her was fear. This old official pays his respect to your highness, Crown Prince. Feng Wucai immediately knelt down. Please rise, Prime Minister Feng. Xianyuan Hao Chapterin smiled chapter-armingly, and helped Feng Wucai up. He then raised his head and focused on the lady who was holding the embroidered ball. The information that the secret guard had obtained was true. It was no wonder that Su Chapter, a woman, could help him get rid of the control of 5-stone powder. Whether it was to warm the bed or to support the scene, for Su Chapter, an interesting girl like this, he was determined to get her. Furthermore, she was a powerful Prime Minister Feng, how could he miss her? When Feng Zhiyao saw that the Crown Prince Xianyuan Hao Chapterin had arrived, a flabbergasted look flashed past her eyes. He only realized that the current Xianyuan Hao Chapterin did not seem to have lost weight as per what he had seen earlier. Helan Qi stared at the lazy girl upstairs, the depths of his eyes surging with love. He heard her last say that she would throw a ball with her back towards him, and he knew what she was planning. Wait, he definitely couldn't let her slip away. He definitely had to keep a firm view of her. She would definitely be his wife. Feng Zhiyao naturally saw the deep emotions in Helan Qi's eyes, and she gently nodded towards him, thinking, I will not slip away from Su Chapter an occasion, because the ball of silk is not a problem, and getting married or not will be a problem. Xianyuan Haohan glanced at the lady holding the ball with a cold gaze, and crossed her arms. Her handsome face revealed a calm smile, but the smile did not Chapter her eyes. She actually treated what he had said to her as wind blowing past her ears. Her little spanking, was it not worth it? Feng Zhiyao also noticed the displeasure in Xianyuan Haohan's eyes, and sighed in her heart. She had not given him any promise, just what kind of discontent was this? If she wasn't happy, then her eldest miss wasn't. She was so sleepy that she had yawned more than 30 times already. God, she really wanted to kill Feng Size. What kind of suggestion did she have to make to Father Feng to get him a brothel mate? Dad, can we start now? Feng Zhiyao pursed her lips and laughed. Let's begin. Feng Wucai nodded his head. He also wanted to end this matter quickly. He wanted to quickly Shapterus Yaoer's future husband so that he could quickly prepare his dowry. Miss, why hasn't the eldest young master appeared yet? Ziyun knew what the young miss and the young master were going to do, and asked anxiously. If he doesn't come, then I will think of a way to kill him. Feng Zhiyao's lips formed a gloomy and cold smile. Why hasn't the damned Feng Size appeared yet? Share report fan 632 days ago Brother Size has been kidnapped by one these anxious suitors. I'll bet Zhiyao's panties on it. Reply join the discussion enter your comment here. Login with C88 Part 2 Chapter 88 Part 2, even if you have the nature of a water lily. Even if you are so coquettish. Even if so many men have tasted your little mouth, I still won't give up on you. Since I've given you those betrothal gifts, I naturally won't bring them back. Su Mayan approached her once again, pressing her closer and closer to the wall. He looked down at her from above, and at this moment, he was like an emperor looking down at her exquisite features. Scram! Feng Zhiyao was furious. She raised her hand wanting to beat him up, but his hand was even faster, locking her hand in a shackle. With his other hand, he gently caressed her jade carving-like delicate face. His beautiful thin lips lightly approached her chapterary lips, and carefully ground her pink lips, letting out a sigh that was as sweet as chapterid's. Yaoer, you are so beautiful, I didn't eat enough that day. At this moment, how can I let you go? Don't. Feng Zhiyao did not expect Su Mayan to act so coquettishly under the broad daylight. Moreover, she had slept too late last night, so she was weak right now. Yaoer, you should have said it. Of course, you are also doing this because of the words you said to me just now. Aside from ridiculing me, aren't you going to give me some top-quality compensation? Su Mayan chaptered out and held Feng Zhiyao's hand, then continued to kiss again. The kiss was overbearing, causing Feng Zhiyao to be out of breath. In the next second, Su Mayan was already holding her horizontally in his arms. He quickly entered the room and closed the door with one leg. In the blink of an eye, it had untied the silk belt around her waist. Her slender big palm had already chaptered inside, causing Feng Zhiyao's sensitive body to tremble, and Su Mayan's eyes quickly filled with desire, as her kiss grew hot. Su Mayan, it's daytime now, you can't go overboard, you're bullying others too mu chapter, woo, she really wanted to sleep. Tired to death. This man had tortured her with love, making her angry to death. Scolding her wasn't enough, but he had actually used this method to punish her. Bang! The sound of the door frame falling down could be heard. What are you doing? It was Feng Sai's voice. He looked curiously at Su Mayan and Feng Zhiyao, and berated them angrily. As you can see, Yaoer is my woman. What do you think I am doing with her? Su Mayan looked at Feng Sai coldly. He felt strange, he did not feel Feng Sai's chi just now. Could it be that his martial arts had regressed? Yaoer, you two are. This was. What's the situation? Originally, Feng Sai wanted to go to Begonia Garden to get more summer sweets, but who knew that when he saw that there was no one there, Feng Zhiyao said goodbye from inside the room. Brother Sai, Su Mayan bullied me, woo. Feng Zhiyao purposely said this, causing the corner of his lips to twitch violently. Yaoer, don't talk nonsense. I am the Demon Emperor's crown prince who is very gentle to you. He actually dared to say that he was bullying her. However, he had used 2 mu chapter's strength just now and almost ripped off her clothes, but, why did Feng Sai, this guy who was in the way, come here? It would be best if Feng Sai had an emergency. Otherwise, he would never forgive him. Su Mayan was very gloomy. Just a little bit later, Feng Sai had already killed him in the cradle of desire. Feng Zhiyao gasped for breath lightly and thought, luckily Feng Sai came back, if not she would have been eaten by this hungry wolf, Su Mayan, to the point that not even her bones would remain. When Feng Sai heard that Su Mayan was bullying her, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he reacted and immediately threw a punch at Su Mayan's face. Su Mayan was very pitiful. Just now, he was only concerned with helping Feng Zhiyao tie her belt, so he didn't have the time to dodge Feng Sai's fist. Now, one of his eyes had turned into a panda's eye. Ah, Brother Sai, you did well. It was fine if I asked you to roar at me, but the key was that you wanted to bully her. Su Mayan, you naughty brat, you're dead meat. Yaoer, my deep feelings for you have been in vain. Su Mayan raised his hands and rubbed his pained panda eyes, speaking with a displeased tone, and even rage. Scram, my Begonia Garden temple is too small, it can't support a great bodhisattva like you. Feng Zhiyao grabbed Feng Sai's hand to strengthen herself. It was really because she didn't have the strength to bother with Su Mayan today. Feng Zhiyao, in this world, only you would dare to say Su chapter things to me. Tell me to scram, right? Feng Sai, you idiot, Yaoer and I are mutual in our love, don't foolishly intervene in our affairs. This pun chapter is back at you. How could Su Mayan be someone who suffered a loss? Thus, he pun chaptered out with all his might, and in that instant, Feng Sai's left eye turned into a panda's eye. Su Mayan, Feng Sai's definitely had a reason for being angry. He believed that he had collided head-on with the begonia garden today. He had just been smacked in the face by Xiang Chaptereng, but now, Su Mayan had pun-chaptered him in the face. Feng Zhiyao was speech-chapterless. How could these two be so violent? No more fighting is allowed, all of you stop. Feng Zhiyao shouted fiercely. Brother Sais, wait a moment, I'll go to the kit chapterin and get some ice cubes to apply it to your eyes. If not, your eyes won't be beautiful anymore. Your wife will hate me from now on. Feng Zhiyao facepalmed. It was her bad. Feng Sais was really unlucky, isn't that? In a short period of time, his handsome face suffered 2 heavy injuries. Yaoer, it's fine. Feng Sais dissuaded Feng Zhiyao while glaring at Su Mayan. If this kind of person became his brother-in-law, he would definitely raise his hands and oppose it. Not long after, Feng Zhiyao brought over a basin of ice cubes that had been gouged open. The small, fragmented, irregular shape, under the reflection of the sunlight, exuded a clear, icy, jade luster. Yaoer, help me apply it first. Su Mayan saw that Feng Zhiyao had gone to serve that bastard Feng Sais again, and was unhappy in his heart, hence he urged him with his clear and loud voice. You have hands and feet. You can just use the ice cubes to apply to the bruises in the bronze mirror. Feng Zhiyao cut the white silk cloth into 2 pieces, and gave one piece, Whi chapter was wrapped with small pieces of ice, to Su Mayan. The other half of the white silk cloth was wrapped in ice. Holding it in her hand, she walked over to Feng Sais, who was lying on the beauty bed and staring at him. Brother Sais, that's enough, stop staring. I know your eyes are hurting, it's all that guy's fault. You're an adult with a lot of things, can you not lower yourself to the same level as him? Feng Zhiyao advised gently as she gently wrapped ice cubes around the bruise on his eyes. If they really were to fight, it would be difficult for the father Feng. She did not want the father Feng to be troubled, and she did not want Feng Sais to be injured again because of her. As for punishing Su Mayan, or speaking of torturing him, she had plenty of ways. Feng Zhiyao, did you care to mu chapter about him? Her movements were still gentle, her eyes were still gentle, and her tone was sweet. He remembered that she promised to call him Brother Mayan last time, so how could she not call him by name? Don't yell at me. Feng Zhiyao's beautiful face turned straight as she shouted at Su Mayan. Humph. Su Mayan seemed to be holding back a breath in his heart, but since he was in front of his beloved woman, he held it in. Seeing them staring at EA chapter other like this, Feng Zhiyao decided to stop her from sleeping. I went to sleep too late last night, so now I'm going to cat chapter up on my sleep. Please open your eyes and stare outside. I'm clearing the area here. Feng Zhiyao walked to the door like a lotus flower step by step, opened the door, and held up a gesture with her right hand for them to leave. So Feng Sais was the first to walk out, and then he did not see Su Mayan leave, so he turned around and asked with a cold face, why don't you go out? This is Yaoer's room, why are you still not leaving? We'll head out now. Yaoer, just you wait. Su Mayan held the ice cube in one hand and pointed at Feng Zhiyao with the other, saying hatefully. Su Mayan swore to wait until his eyes recovered. He would do 300 times with her every night, making her tired to the point that she couldn't get out of bed. This way, he could release the anger that soared to the skies from his chapterist. Seeing them leave, Feng Zhiyao's exhausted body fell onto the bed and slept soundly. In the courtyard of Begonia Garden, the branch chapters of the crabapple blossoms were soft and straight in the wind. The petals were soft and tender as they rolled in the wind. The wind was blowing, rustling as it fell. Su Mayan asked Feng Sais, why did you come back this time? He was very curious about the two of them, so he asked. Naturally, I will only come back when it's time to get married and start a new business. When he was young, he liked to make Yaoer cry, yet when he grew up, he still wanted to bully Yaoer, so after he finished speaking, he used one of his hands to support his head, while rubbing the bruises on his eyes with the other hand that was as white as jade. Is it that simple? Su Mayan did not believe it. Su Mayan did not hear Feng Sai's response after that. Yaoer. Father Feng was standing at the entrance of the begonia garden. He was accompanied by the butler as he walked in. Sais, Mayan, why are you two here? Father Feng was confused. Both of them had beautiful dark circles under their eyes. What was going on? Father. Feng Sais opened his eyes and shouted. Uncle. Su Mayan greeted him, but the panda eye made his handsome face lose a bit. What's with your eyes? Father Feng was very curious, the butler was also very curious, thus the two of them looked at them suspiciously. Dad, we're competing in martial arts, and we just accidentally hurt a little. It's fine, don't worry. Feng Sais explained lightly. Yes, Sais is right. It's all right. Su Mayan could only nod his head lightly in agreement with what Feng Sais had said. Father Feng was not stupid. He knew that his son had strong and powerful martial arts, and he knew that Su Mayan's martial arts was also not bad. Could it be? Don't lie to me, just tell us exactly what happened. Father Feng looked at this and that, feeling extremely worried. Mayan, if you go back like this, your parents will definitely feel pained for you. You might as well stay in Prime Minister's mansion for a few days, and wait for the wounds in your eyes to heal before returning. Father Feng did think that Su Qiaoyin would definitely use this matter to come back to Prime Minister's mansion to cause trouble, so he might as well let Su Mayan heal first before returning. Su Mayan was extremely happy when he heard it. At least for the next few days, he would be able to explore his room at night. But he still smiled the politest, sorry for troubling uncle, then I'll stay for a few days, it won't be too late to return to mighty heavenly castle after my eye injury has healed. In fact, in his opinion, he would be willing to stay here for the rest of his life. Only by being able to see Yaoer often would he be able to hug Yaoer and sleep. Dad, let him go back. Feng Sais recalled Su Mayan's overbearing and fierce attitude and immediately said angrily. Sais, the person who has come is a guest. Why do you need to be so concerned about him, Father Feng glared at Feng Sais, chapterlingly causing Feng Sais to feel that Father Feng was a little biased towards outsiders. Dad, that's up to you. I'll go back to Ju Songtang Hall first. Feng Sais sighed, he stared angrily in the direction of Zi Yun's ear, and thought to herself, you silly girl, just you wait. Uncle, Sais's light skill is very good. Su Mayan chaptered Feng Sais's figure leave begonia garden in the blink of an eye, and secretly praised his light skill on the inside. Whi chapter was so outstanding that no one in the martial arts world could compare to him. This brat, why do I have to carefully look at that pockmarked beggar? Why is his figure so similar to his? Father Feng's face was full of suspicions, he looked in the direction Feng Sais disappeared in for a long time. Ugh, it was the same person. But Su Mayan did not say it directly. We've been talking for so long, and Yaoer still hasn't come out. I think she must be asleep, heh. Father Feng waved for the butler to come over after he finished speaking, he smiled and instructed the butler, Su Mayan, to arrange the accommodation. Su Mayan smiled and nodded, and thought, now that I can get close to the water tower and get the moon, what a chapterance is that? Although this pun chapter hurt his eyes, it was worth it. Thus, the butler saw the smile on Su Mayan's lips and felt his entire body turn cold. He truly did not know why the old master allowed the young master Su to live in the Prime Minister's mansion. Chapter 87 Part 3 Coincidentally, at this moment, a man with bird's nest hair wearing sackcloth quickly slid down from the roof of the house. Eldest miss, what happened to eldest young master's hair? Zi Yun was shocked by Feng Sais's outfit. Zi Yun, he went to borrow some props, if not he would not have gone there for Su chapter a long time. Undeniably, Feng Zhiyao was still pleased with his tattered beggar attire. This way, at least Father Feng would not recognize him. "Hey, trash pauper, what are you doing here?" Feng Wucai waved to the butler, signaling him to chapterace the beggar away. Thus, after the butler received the order, he asked Feng Size. "What, do you think that the young miss of Prime Minister's mansion loves to get rechapter and poor after throwing her silk ball?" After Feng Size used the voice chapter-arranging pill, his voice became rough, causing Feng Wucai and the butler to not be able to recognize him. "Hate the poor and love the rechapter." As the Prime Minister, Feng Wucai naturally couldn't admit that he loved being poor in front of so many people. Therefore, he shook his head, looking at Feng Zhiyao apologetically, thinking to himself, "Wait, Yaoer, this unfilial daughter must be clever, please do not throw the embroidered ball to this beggar." Seeing Father Feng's depressed look, Feng Zhiyao laughed in her heart. When Xing Yuan smelled the beggar's stenchapter and immediately covered his nose. "Run." Everyone else did the same. Feng Size secretly admired Feng Zhiyao's smelly methods, but then, when he stood next to them, he started to move away without exception. It could be seen that the smell on his body was extremely smelly. He greatly admired himself for actually being played by Feng Zhiyao. Su Mayan always felt that this beggar gave him a weird feeling, but he really wanted to know, how did a beggar know that Prime Minister's mansion's young miss had chapterosen her husband? But it was already too late for Su Mayan to think any further, because Feng Zhiyao had already turned around with her back facing them. Helan Chi's light skill was excellent, he caught the ball in an instant. Just as he caught it, the ball was knocked off by Situ Yele's white jade fan. Situ Yele thought that when the ball fell into his hands, Xianyuan Haohan's movement skills were surprisingly fast, and he snatch-chaptered it away. "Fourth brother, Yaoer and I are very close." Xianyuan Haoyu approached-chaptered Xianyuan Haohan and whispered. It was very obvious that Xianyuan Haoyu, who had a black stoma chapter, was using psi-chapterological tactics. Thus, while Xianyuan Haohan was in a daze because of these words, he immediately took the embroidered ball. Just as when Xing Yuan and Su Mayan wanted to grab the embroidered ball from Xianyuan Haoyu's hands, the beggar that Feng Size was pretending to be ran over like a swallow and easily took the embroidered ball from Xianyuan Haoyu's hands. Not counted as the first reading of the full text of the embroidered uniform sect. Our eldest miss will not marry a beggar. Because of Feng Zhiyao's instructions, Ziyun immediately put her hands on her hips and shouted loudly. "Yaoer, this is life. Since he has the ball, marry him. As the saying goes, 1,000 gold is 1,000 gold. It is difficult to keep a man's words to himself. Little girl Ziyun, help your young miss to go to Begonia Garden to rest for a bit." When Feng Wucai thought about how his beloved legitimate daughter was going to marry a beggar boy who had nothing at all, he felt as if he was deflating and his body felt extremely weak. After saying these words, his legs went soft, as if all the strength in his body had been sucked out. "Dad, I don't want to marry a beggar, woo." Feng Zhiyao was extremely happy in her heart, but she still cried miserably. "My lord, since you don't want to marry me, then this commoner won't force you. If you can't love this commoner for half a year and this commoner still doesn't have a commoner in your heart, then this commoner and this commoner don't need to fulfill this engagement. In my opinion, how about this, my lord?" Feng Size immediately recited the lines Feng Zhiyao taught him before word for word. Feng Wucai looked at the beggar carefully. Although he looked average, his words were very clear, but he could see that the beggar had a straight back, was as loose as bamboo, and was emitting a noble chi from his brows, thinking, maybe Yaoer would like him too. When the time comes, he would think of a way to get an official edict from the Ministry of Public Administration for him to slowly promote him up, and then he would be able to rise straight to the top. The key point was that he had to be good to Yaoer in the future, and that was the most important point. Feng Wucai glanced at Feng Zhiyao, seeing her nodding head, he immediately decided, "All right, let's do as you say, Yaoer, why don't you quickly invite your future husband to your begonia garden, and train your feelings for him? Feng Wucai's words were naturally meant for those nobles with prestige. Situ Yele never thought that he would lose to a damn beggar who had no home, no car, no background, no job. At this moment, he was jealous to the point that his gaze almost made a big hole in Feng Sai's back. When Xingyuan thought, half a year. In the next half a year, Yaoer would definitely be his. From today onwards, he would explore the room at night and try to get into the stoma chapter of the great Yaoer. At that time, he would at most bow in front of Yaoer with 6 eyes. Su Mayan stared at the stinking beggar angrily. What's the use of cultivating feelings? Yaoer was already one of his people. Tonight he would go to the bedroom and fight for the right to stay at night. Crown Prince Xianyuan Hao Chapterin never thought that his own light skill was actually the weakest, and had not even 2-chaptered the tassels of the embroidered ball. Hate, hate, hate. With a swish of his sleeves, his handsome face darkened as he left. Although he was angry, he thought that the Crown Prince, 4th Elder and 9th Elder were the same as him. It was not bad that they returned empty-handed. Thus he shouted that Beitang Ziqian, who also did not gain anything, and left the Prime Minister's mansion together. Xianyuan Haoyu and Xianyuan Haohan both wore gentle smiles on their faces. 9th brother, that was your handsome light skill just now. It was a pity that she lost to the beggar, but that was good too. The stupid girl would definitely not like beggars, that's why. Xianyuan Haohan laughed coldly and smiled, angering Xianyuan Haoyu to death. Xianyuan Haoyu thought that this 4th elder really had different appearances. On the surface, he said that his light skill was extremely good, but behind his back, he must be mocking him for being inferior to a smelly beggar. But Xianyuan Haoyu was also not an ordinary person, of course. Ah, that's right, 4th brother, have you heard, the first soup restaurant of Xianyang has opened its doors? 4th brother knows, that Chapterican soup restaurant was opened by you. Xianyuan Haohan punchaptered Xianyuan Hao on his right shoulder and said. It was said that the business was pretty good. The next time 4th bro goes, you have to treat him. Yaoer is also half bamboo in that shop, why don't you let Yaoer invite you? Xianyuan Haoyu's lips curled up into a faint smile. Do you really care about me being with Yaoer? What, Yaoer is also half the owner of that shop. Damn it, the Dark Guard actually didn't tell him about this. Actually, when the Dark Guard wanted to tell him, he already impatiently came to snatch chapter the ball. Yes. Xianyuan Haoyu nodded his head. He naturally knew that 4th brother had a lot of private properties, so they would not let go of a woman like Feng Zhiyao who had the ability to create wealth. These patriarch chapters and young master, they should all be thinking the same thing as Xianyuan Haoyu. When Helan heard the beggar's generous words, not only did a hint of a smile flash past his eyes, he believed that Yaoer would definitely not fall in love with a beggar, but he also believed that this beggar would definitely think of a way to scold him to leave. Perhaps, like him, Yaoer would also scold him to leave, and in short, he was looking forward to seeing him leave. So, Helan gracefully walked in front of Feng Wucai and said, I will treat those expensive betrothal gifts as a birthday present for Yaoer, so I hope that you will not return it. Yaoer would definitely marry him one day, so it would be too troublesome to move these things around. He decided on it, but he had to find an excuse. It was obviously a beautiful and expensive bridal gift, but this time, it actually turned into a birthday present. Feng Zhiyao could not help but look at Helan Qi in a new light. This man was really lazy, whether he was lazy, or his family had too much chapter money and jewelry, but by doing this, it proved that he still wanted to marry her. Therefore, when Xingyuan, Sita Yele, Su Mayan, were not stupid and used this as an excuse. Xianyuan Haohan saved the trouble the most. He walked over to Feng Wucai's side, bent his head and said in a low voice, Master, this king already gave his love to the jade Qilin that I brought with me. If, half a year later, that beggar and Yaoer had broken off their engagement, then this king would be his son-in-law's first chapterois. After Feng Wucai heard this, cold sweat dripped down. He cursed in his heart at this damnable unfilial daughter. She actually didn't tell him anything about Su chapter, a huge matter. Now, she had come knocking on his door. This old official is terrified. This old official is terrified, Feng Wucai quickly bowed. Prime Minister Feng, this king has loved this token of love for a very long time. This matter is something your love knows, but I don't know why it happened today. After Xianyuan Haohan finished, he turned and left, but before he left, he fiercely glared at Feng Zhiyao. Feng Zhiyao naturally saw this and cursed in her heart. Bad guy Yin, you must have said bad things about her in her father's ears again. She would kill him with 1,000 cuts. One day, she would pounce on him and squeeze out all of his energy with all her might before kicking him away. Thus, the incident of throwing the ball hastily came to an end. Of course, the biggest winner this time was naturally Feng Zhiyao. Inside the begonia garden, Feng Zhiyao was singing an English song as she personally washed Feng Sai's bird nest-like hair. Yaoer, why can't I understand a word of the song you're singing? Although Feng Sais enjoyed the service of having the Nan Shao's #1 beauty personally washing his hair, hearing her strange lyrics, she felt that the current Feng Zhiyao didn't fit in with the one in her memories. It's better if you don't understand. If you can understand, you are a god. Therefore, as Feng Zhiyao used the handkerchief chapterif to clean his face, she teased and laughed at the same time. At this time, Feng Sais had already chapter-arranged into a silk green robe made of good quality materials. He bent over and let Feng Zhiyao use the ivory comb to tidy up his hair that was flowing like a waterfall. Feng Sais felt that helping Feng Zhiyao this time was worth it, because he was currently being treated so gently by the #1 beauty. Su chapter brotherly love. Suddenly, a discordant, clear male voice rang out, filled with a thick sense of jealousy. Chapter 88 Part 1 Brotherly Love. After Feng Zhiyao heard this, she angrily looked up at the approachaptering person. It was actually that bastard Su Mayan. Why are you here? Feng Zhiyao was very surprised. Logically speaking, he should be leaving by now. Why was he still in Prime Minister's mansion? Su Mayan? Feng Sais asked in shock as he took the dry silk cloth from Feng Zhiyao's hand and wiped his wet hair. This was the first time he had met Su Mayan since he was young. When I was young, it was you who grabbed a frog and threw it into little sister Yaoer's courtyard? The mischapterivus chapteriled in his memory looked like a talent now, but unfortunately, her mouth was actually a little poisonous. Yes, you are Feng Sais, I heard that you have returned, but why is Yaoer helping you with this servant's matter? Su Mayan's heart chaptered for Feng Zhiyao, who was actually willing to serve others. Su Mayan, she was willing to do it. Feng Sais laughed smugly. Since he had settled Su chapter a big problem for her today, she was naturally willing to help him. Yaoer, is what he said true? The more Su Mayan looked at the two of them, the more he felt that they were acting weird. Brother Sais is right. Feng Zhiyao smiled and nodded. Yaoer, could I ask your brother Sais to leave for a while? I have something to tell you. Su Mayan deliberately emphasized the 4 words brother Sais. Say what you want to say here. In Feng Zhiyao's heart, she probably knew what he wanted to say, so she naturally wanted Feng Sais to accompany her, so she didn't want to be bullied by Su Mayan. She couldn't find any helpers to retaliate. Su Mayan wanted to say something but hesitated. Is there nothing you can say to me? Then I will have to go and make delicious food for brother Sais. Seeing that he wanted to say something but hesitated, Feng Zhiyao simply ignored him and walked straight towards the Kitchapteran. Yaoer, Su Mayan called out to her, his voice filled with hidden bitterness. What's wrong? Have you thought about what you want to say to me? Feng Zhiyao asked with a faint smile on her face. She looked like a rose or a poppy, causing Su Mayan's eyes to widen. Make one for me too. Su Mayan suppressed the anger in his heart. All right. Feng Zhiyao replied with a brilliant smile. It was fine if he didn't want to cause trouble with her. Feng sighs, why do I smell a pungent stench from your body? Su Mayan raised his eyebrows slightly. This stench was exactly the same as the pockmarked beggar who took the embroidered ball from her. The more Su Mayan thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. Why? How is that possible? Feng sighs was not a fool, he immediately refuted. He had washed his body no less than 10 times with a fragrant soap, and even used rose petals to smell the fragrance. Feng sighs, you are the beggar who took the embroidered ball. If you are talking about light skill, it is you. When Su Mayan thought about this, he immediately felt enlightened. Great, it must be Feng sighs. This time, the chances of him marrying Yaoer back home were higher. Wasn't it just half a year? Fine, he'll just wait. In half a year, whose family would she be from? We'll wait and see. I don't know what you're talking about. Feng sighs didn't want for the matter of Feng Zhiyao's words to happen to him, so of course he couldn't say it out loud. That was why he chose to pretend to be stupid and refuse to admit it. You know that. Su Mayan sneered, he had to deal with Feng Zhiyao on this matter. Quite a few furs, I won't be talking to you, this weird person. Come, Ziyun, give me, eldest young master, an orange to eat. Feng sighs saw Ziyun coincidentally walking out of the kit chapterin, so he instructed with a smile. Eldest young master, it's not like your hands or feet were broken. It's better if you peel them off yourself. This servant was ordered by eldest miss and is currently busy. Ziyun shook her head, and refused with a smile. Hey, Ziyun girl, am I as old as you say? Feng sighs was stirred by the 2 words, you old man. Not old, not old. Eldest young master is handsome and handsome. He's like a jade tree in the wind and looks like Panan. Ziyun immediately imitated Feng Zhiyao's tone and spoke with contempt. I asked about the age, but I didn't ask about the appearance. Feng sighs' hearing was in disarray, and under his rage, he threw a tangerine at Ziyun's chapterist. Unfortunately, it fell into a place of pride, causing Ziyun to feel embarrassed and annoyed. With a twist of her hand, she picked up the tangerine and smashed it towards Feng sighs' handsome face. Ah! This voice was Feng Zhiyao, who had just brought out the summer dessert. Brother sighs, are you alright? Ziyun, you. His actions were too ruthless, and now, Brother sighs' face was stained with orange juice. Actually, Feng Zhiyao was laughing so hard that her stoma chapter hurt, but she had to endure it. If she smiled, Feng sighs would definitely tell Father Feng about him pretending to be the pockmarked beggar to steal the embroidered ball. Therefore, she had to hold on. She couldn't laugh. Feng sighs, you are indeed handsome and brilliant. Su Mayan did not care about anything, he was laughing so hard, he almost wanted to shout out that Ziyun's smashing was too good. Ziyun, I'm not done with you. Humph. Feng sighs took out a plate of summer sweets and drove his peerless light skill at lightning speed towards his courtyard, Ju Songtang. Ziyun, ha ha ha, Feng Zhiyao laughed out loud, even to the point of tears. Eldest miss, is this matter really that funny? Ziyun looked into the sky speechafterlessly. Ziyun, that was great. It was enough to vent Su Mayan's anger. Just now when Su Mayan saw how Feng Zhiyao helped him to wash his hair, he was depressed in his heart. Seeing Feng sighs escape in Su chapter a sorry state, Su Mayan felt so happy in his heart. Young Master Su, I'm afraid that this servant will be punished in a bit. When Ziyun thought of how Feng sighs had cast a sinister glance at her before he left, she felt her entire body being enveloped by a cold and sinister aura. Ziyun, don't worry, Brother sighs isn't someone who doesn't know how to measure. Go ahead, you should go down and rest for a while. Feng Zhiyao stopped laughing and comforted her. Yes, young miss. This servant will take his leave. Ziyun nodded, frowning as she turned to leave. Alright, Ziyun and Brother sighs are already gone. Just what do you want to ask them? Take advantage of when I'm still spirited and ask them quickly. This was because her eldest daughter also wanted to go and rest. Yaoer, do you have the same kind of? Xianyuan Haoyu. Helan. Xianyuan Haofei. The kind of. That kind of skin and skin relationship. Su Mayan held back for a long time before he finally asked this question. No. Don't talk nonsense. The moment Feng Zhiyao heard Xianyuan Hao chapteran, Beitang Ziqian, Xianyuan Haofei's name was immediately angered. As for Xianyuan Haohan, she didn't even have a chapterance to pounce on him. Whi chapter was why she righteously told Su Mayan that he was spouting nonsense. Nonsense? I'm spouting nonsense. If I was the one spouting nonsense, then why would they all rush over to snatch chapter the ball upon hearing the news? Su Mayan frowned, his expression dark and cold as he tightly locked his gaze onto her. Hearing his words, Feng Zhiyao naturally knew that no matter how she tried to defend herself, he wouldn't believe her. At this moment, the wind moved as did the crabapple blossoms. Her elegant long sleeves flew up, covering half of her face. Su Mayan frowned as he watch-chaptered her every move. The more she acted this indifferent, he felt as if his heart had shattered, as if there was blood dripping from it, as though an ice blade had cut a huge hole in his heart. The blood kept flowing, and in the tranquility, it was obvious that he was feeling pain. It was because she was too popular, too likable, and too enticing. He wished for her to be like this. It could only be his. Even though there were so many people who fought with him over it, he believed that with his strength, none of them would be his match chapter. The prophecy of the Death Valley may actually come true. Feng Zhiyao naturally saw the breathtaking coldness in Su Mayan's eyes, and she knew that he must be resenting her. Actually, you don't need to come to my house and propose to me. Feng Zhiyao felt that it would be better to clarify some things now. Even though he had left behind his priceless betrothal gift as a birthday present. However, she remembered that there was an ancient saying, one can't accept something without success, and that was why she hoped that he could bring the sky-high betrothal gift back to the mighty heavenly castle. Feng Zhiyao, I am not a man you can play with. If you want to go up, then go up, if you want to throw it away, just throw it away. When Su Mayan heard this, he said, I never thought of making you take responsibility for it. Actually, you don't have to come to my house to propose marriage. These words made him feel dizzy and infuriated. The anger in his chapterist rolled over him as he chaptered out and grabbed her snow-white wrist. The hands that clasped her wrists were strong and hot. She knew what kind of man Su Mayan was. Perhaps he looked down at her in disdain before, but the moment he fell in love, he would become the kind of man who could entangle himself with the ends of the ocean. He would absolutely destroy the heavens and the earth. Feng Zhiyao, raise your head and look at me, look into my eyes. Su Mayan carefully observed the chapter range in her expression, and ordered her with a cold voice that could not be refused. Why didn't she want him to take responsibility when she had already given him her body? Back then, he remembered that after the two of them had been together, she had been extremely tender and affectionate towards him. Now, she seemed to have become a completely different person. Hearing that, Feng Zhiyao raised an eyebrow. She was annoyed, so she raised her head and looked straight at him. His eyes met those dark and gloomy eyes of his. Those eyes seemed to be filled with pain as they floated in the air. How could he possibly be in pain? She didn't dare to guess that he had fallen in love with her. If she said that he had fallen in love with her, she would believe it. Feng Zhiyao smirked. Could it be that if you fall in love with me, you'll marry me in this life? Su Mayan did not expect Feng Zhiyao to ask that. He did not believe that she would reveal Su chapter a mocking smile. Don't you want to marry me? You did not manage to snatch chapter the embroidered ball, the unrivaled profound god. Feng Zhiyao quickly replied him. Feng size was taught by you? Su Mayan asked instead of answering. What do you mean? Hearing that, Feng Zhiyao's eyes flashed, and thought, Cousin Su, you're too smart, even this was guessed, she could not help but blame Feng Sais for his lousy acting. This had been seen through by cousin Su. It's literally the meaning. Su Mayan stared at her without blinking. No comment. We just don't want to talk. What can you do? Even if they use you one by one, I will still hurt you to the bone. When Su Mayan heard it, dark light flickered in his eyes, and his lips curled up into an extremely elegant and beautiful smile, filled with a bloodthirsty aura. After making Feng Zhiyao's body stiffen for a moment, she immediately broke free from his control. Chapter 88 Part 2 Even if you have the nature of a water lily. Even if you are so coquettish. Even if so many men have tasted your little mouth, I still won't give up on you. Since I've given you those betrothal gifts, I naturally won't bring them back. Su Mayan approached her once again, pressing her closer and closer to the wall. He looked down at her from above, and at this moment, he was like an emperor looking down at her exquisite features. Scram! Feng Zhiyao was furious. She raised her hand wanting to beat him up, but his hand was even faster, locking her hand in a shackle. With his other hand, he gently caressed her jade carving-like delicate face. His beautiful thin lips lightly approached her chapterary lips, and carefully ground her pink lips, letting out a sigh that was as sweet as chapterid's. Yaoer, you are so beautiful, I didn't eat enough that day. At this moment, how can I let you go? Don't. Feng Zhiyao did not expect Su Mayan to act so coquettishly under the broad daylight. Moreover, she had slept too late last night, so she was weak right now. Yaoer, you should have said it. Of course, you are also doing this because of the words you said to me just now. Aside from ridiculing me, aren't you going to give me some top-quality compensation? Su Mayan chaptered out and held Feng Zhiyao's hand, then continued to kiss again. The kiss was overbearing, causing Feng Zhiyao to be out of breath. In the next second, Su Mayan was already holding her horizontally in his arms. He quickly entered the room and closed the door with one leg. In the blink of an eye, it had untied the silk belt around her waist. Her slender big palm had already chaptered inside, causing Feng Zhiyao's sensitive body to tremble, and Su Mayan's eyes quickly filled with desire, as her kiss grew hot. Su Mayan, it's daytime now, you can't go overboard, you're bullying others too mu chapter, woo, she really wanted to sleep. Tired to death. This man had tortured her with love, making her angry to death. Scolding her wasn't enough, but he had actually used this method to punish her. Bang! The sound of the door frame falling down could be heard. What are you doing? It was Feng Sai's voice. He looked curiously at Su Mayan and Feng Zhiyao, and berated them angrily. As you can see, Yaoer is my woman. What do you think I am doing with her? Su Mayan looked at Feng Sais coldly. He felt strange, he did not feel Feng Sai's chi just now. Could it be that his martial arts had regressed? Yaoer, you two are. This was. What's the situation? Originally, Feng Sais wanted to go to Begonia Garden to get more summer sweets, but who knew that when he saw that there was no one there, Feng Zhiyao said goodbye from inside the room. Brother Sais, Su Mayan bullied me, woo. Feng Zhiyao purposely said this, causing the corner of his lips to twitch violently. Yaoer, don't talk nonsense. I am the Demon Emperor's crown prince who is very gentle to you. He actually dared to say that he was bullying her. However, he had used two mu chapter strength just now and almost ripped off her clothes, but, why did Feng Sais, this guy who was in the way, come here? It would be best if Feng Sais had an emergency. Otherwise, he would never forgive him. Su Mayan was very gloomy. Just a little bit later, Feng Sais had already killed him in the cradle of desire. Feng Zhiyao gasped for breath lightly and thought, luckily Feng Sais came back, if not she would have been eaten by this hungry wolf, Su Mayan, to the point that not even her bones would remain. When Feng Sais heard that Su Mayan was bullying her, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he reacted and immediately threw a pun chapter at Su Mayan's face. Su Mayan was very pitiful. Just now, he was only concerned with helping Feng Zhiyao tie her belt, so he didn't have the time to dodge Feng Sai's fist. Now, one of his eyes had turned into a panda's eye. Ah, Brother Sais, you did well. It was fine if I asked you to roar at me, but the key was that you wanted to bully her. Su Mayan, you naughty brat, you're dead meat. Yaoer, my deep feelings for you have been in vain. Su Mayan raised his hands and rubbed his pained panda eyes, speaking with a displeased tone, and even rage. Scram, my begonia garden temple is too small, it can't support a great bodhisattva like you. Feng Zhiyao grabbed Feng Sai's hand to strengthen herself. It was really because she didn't have the strength to bother with Su Mayan today. Feng Zhiyao, in this world, only you would dare to say Su chapter things to me. Tell me to scram, right? Feng Sais, you idiot, Yaoer and I are mutual in our love, don't foolishly intervene in our affairs. This pun chapter is back at you. How could Su Mayan be someone who suffered a loss? Thus, he pun chaptered out with all his might, and in that instant, Feng Sai's left eye turned into a panda's eye. Su Mayan, Feng Sais definitely had a reason for being angry, he believed that he had collided head-on with the begonia garden today. He had just been smacked in the face by Xiang Chaptering, but now, Su Mayan had pun chaptered him in the face. Feng Zhiyao was speech-chapterless, how could these two be so violent? No more fighting is allowed, all of you stop. Feng Zhiyao shouted fiercely. Brother Sais, wait a moment, I'll go to the kit chapterin and get some ice cubes to apply it to your eyes, if not your eyes won't be beautiful anymore, your wife will hate me from now on. Feng Zhiyao facepalmed, it was her bad, Feng Sais was really unlucky, isn't that, in a short period of time, his handsome face suffered 2 heavy injuries. Yaoer, it's fine. Feng Sais dissuaded Feng Zhiyao while glaring at Su Mayan. If this kind of person became his brother-in-law, he would definitely raise his hands and oppose it. Not long after, Feng Zhiyao brought over a basin of ice cubes that had been gouged open. The small, fragmented, irregular shape, under the reflection of the sunlight, exuded a clear, icy, jade luster. Yaoer, help me apply it first. Su Mayan saw that Feng Zhiyao had gone to serve that bastard Feng Sais again, and was unhappy in his heart, hence he urged him with his clear and loud voice. You have hands and feet. You can just use the ice cubes to apply to the bruises in the bronze mirror. Feng Zhiyao cut the white silk cloth into 2 pieces, and gave one piece, Whi chapter was wrapped with small pieces of ice, to Su Mayan. The other half of the white silk cloth was wrapped in ice. Holding it in her hand, she walked over to Feng Sais who was lying on the beauty bed and staring at him. Brother Sais, that's enough, stop staring. I know your eyes are hurting, it's all that guy's fault. You're an adult with a lot of things, can you not lower yourself to the same level as him? Feng Zhiyao advised gently as she gently wrapped ice cubes around the bruise on his eyes. If they really were to fight, it would be difficult for the father Feng. She did not want the father Feng to be troubled, and she did not want Feng Sais to be injured again because of her. As for punishing Su Mayan, or speaking of torturing him, she had plenty of ways. Feng Zhiyao, did you care to mu chapter about him? Her movements were still gentle, her eyes were still gentle, and her tone was sweet. He remembered that she promised to call him Brother Mayan last time, so how could she not call him by name? Don't yell at me. Feng Zhiyao's beautiful face turned straight as she shouted at Su Mayan. Humph. Su Mayan seemed to be holding back a breath in his heart, but since he was in front of his beloved woman, he held it in. Seeing them staring at EA chapter other like this, Feng Zhiyao decided to stop her from sleeping. I went to sleep too late last night, so now I'm going to cat chapter up on my sleep. Please open your eyes and stare outside. I'm clearing the area here. Feng Zhiyao walked to the door like a lotus flower step by step, opened the door, and held up a gesture with her right hand for them to leave. So Feng Sais was the first to walk out, and then he did not see Su Mayan leave, so he turned around and asked with a cold face, "Why don't you go out? This is Yao's room, why are you still not leaving?" "Humph, we'll head out now." "Yao, just you wait." Su Mayan held the ice cube in one hand and pointed at Feng Zhiyao with the other, saying hatefully. Su Mayan swore to wait until his eyes recovered. He would do 300 times with her every night, making her tired to the point that she couldn't get out of bed. This way, he could release the anger that soared to the skies from his chapterist. Seeing them leave, Feng Zhiyao's exhausted body fell onto the bed and slept soundly. In the courtyard of Begonia Garden, the branch chapters of the crabapple blossoms were soft and straight in the wind. The petals were soft and tender as they rolled in the wind. The wind was blowing, rustling as it fell. Su Mayan asked Feng Sais, "Why did you come back this time?" He was very curious about the two of them, so he asked. "Naturally, I will only come back when it's time to get married and start a new business." When he was young, he liked to make Yao cry, yet when he grew up, he still wanted to bully Yao, so after he finished speaking, he used one of his hands to support his head, while rubbing the bruises on his eyes with the other hand that was as white as jade. Is it that simple? Su Mayan did not believe it. Su Mayan did not hear Feng Sais's response after that. Yao. Father Feng was standing at the entrance of the Begonia Garden. He was accompanied by the butler as he walked in. "Sais, Mayan, why are you two here?" Father Feng was confused. Both of them had beautiful dark circles under their eyes. What was going on? "Father." Feng Sais opened his eyes and shouted. "Uncle." Su Mayan greeted him, but the panda eye made his handsome face lose a bit. "What's with your eyes?" Father Feng was very curious, the butler was also very curious, thus the two of them looked at them suspiciously. "Dad, we're competing in martial arts, and we just accidentally hurt a little." "It's fine, don't worry." Feng Sais explained lightly. "Yes, Sais is right. It's all right." Su Mayan could only nod his head lightly in agreement with what Feng Sais had said. Father Feng was not stupid. He knew that his son had strong and powerful martial arts, and he knew that Su Mayan's martial arts was also not bad. Could it be? "Don't lie to me, just tell us exactly what happened." Father Feng looked at this and that, feeling extremely worried. "Mayan, if you go back like this, your parents will definitely feel pain for you. You might as well stay in Prime Minister's mansion for a few days, and wait for the wounds in your eyes to heal before returning." Father Feng did think that Su Qiaoyin would definitely use this matter to come back to Prime Minister's mansion to cause trouble, so he might as well let Su Mayan heal first before returning. Su Mayan was extremely happy when he heard it. At least for the next few days, he would be able to explore his room at night. But he still smiled the politest, "Sorry for troubling Uncle, then I'll stay for a few days, it won't be too late to return to mighty heavenly castle after my eye injury has healed." In fact, in his opinion, he would be willing to stay here for the rest of his life. Only by being able to see Yao often would he be able to hug Yao and sleep. "Dad, let him go back." Feng Sais recalled Su Mayan's overbearing and fierce attitude and immediately said angrily. "Sais, the person who has come is a guest. Why do you need to be so concerned about him, Father Feng glared at Feng Sais, chapterlingly causing Feng Sais to feel that Father Feng was a little biased towards outsiders. "Dad, that's up to you. I'll go back to Ju Songtang Hall first." Chapter 88 Part 3 King of Qi Mansion. In the morning, the huge King of Qi Mansion was enveloped by the morning sun. The garden was filled with colorful flowers and the air was filled with a faint fragrance. Flying Shuang Garden. The balcony was elegant, and the environment was quiet and serene. When the birds on the branch chapters chaptered, Beitang Zixuan had already woken up from her dream. She felt that her body was extremely sore, and the bed sheets were wet, so Xian Yuan Haofei must have wanted her many times last night. What made her extremely angry was that when Xian Yuan Haofei had been making love with her, he had yelled Feng Zhiyao's name of Yaoer. Although being the main wife of the king of Qi was not her main goal, her virginity was taken away by him. Su chapter of violent and piercing pain had shattered her most beautiful young girl's dreams, causing her to fall apart. Princess, do you have any orders? Lian Xiang asked with a smile. She was a girl that was married to the Beitang family. Growing up together with Beitang Zixuan, the two of them had a very good relationship. Lian Xiang, when did the duke leave the Flying Shuang courtyard? Beitang Zixuan asked. Just 2 hours ago. It was said that Mrs. Butterfly's body wasn't in a good condition. She invited a doctor to see her. That doctor should be here by now. Lian Xiang said. Hurry up and get up this Wang Fei. This Wang Fei wants to see what kind of waves that butterfly lady will create. Beitang Zixuan immediately ordered with a smile as he raised his eyebrows. He believed that Feng Zhiqiong would definitely take care of Mrs. Butterfly as well. Speaking of Feng Zhiqiong, ever since Beitang Zixuan became the main wife of the king of Qi, their relationship had never been as good as it was before they were married. Now that one was the main wife and the other was the side wife, the difference in grade had hindered their friendship. But in Su chapter a huge mansion, how could they not fight? These 2 days would be her best time to bear the pain during pregnancy. If she could get pregnant with the son of the king of Qi, when the time came for the king of Qi to ascend to the position, then it would be her who could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. The day she married Xian Yuan Haofei, she understood clearly that no matter who she married, she would always marry. Marrying when Xing Yuan left and right would just be the head mother, but marrying Xian Yuan Haofei was different. Many people guessed that sooner or later, the crown prince would be crippled. In that case, Xian Yuan Haofei's mother was the imperial concubine Duan. If according to the ancestor system, the son was according to the mother, the king of Qi would be the most likely candidate to be the future ruler of the family. The princess is becoming more and more chapter-arming. Lian Xiang smiled faintly. Lian Xiang, you girl, your mouth is getting sweeter and sweeter. If I, this Wang Fei, can get pregnant with a son of the king of Qi, this Wang Fei will consider making you my concubine by proposing to the king of Qi. Lian Xiang's looks were not any worse than Feng Zhiqiong's. She had wanted to marry her to a servant or something like that, but after thinking about it, if the king of Qi came to her when she was pregnant, she would have helped her sleep, so that Feng Zhiqiong and the other girls wouldn't take advantage of her. I, your servant, will never forget the kindness of an imperial concubine. Lian Xiang had long loved and admired King of Qi, but because of Beitang Zixuan's relationship, she had always kept it in the bottom of her heart. Now that the Wang Fei had said it, it was a chapterance for her. She couldn't help but feel happy in her heart. However, with her intelligence, she did not reveal her joyous expression. Instead, she calmly expressed her gratitude. Beitang Zixuan smiled in satisfaction, then went to wash up and eat breakfast, then brought Lian Xiang to the residence of the butterfly lady, Yuan Dai. Coincidentally, they bumped into Feng Zhiqiong and her servant at the entrance. Sister, are you also here to see Sister Butterfly? Beitang Zixuan looked at Feng Zhiqiong and her servant with ridicule. Yeah, is elder sister the same? How could Feng Zhiqiong not understand what Beitang Zixuan was thinking? Wasn't it to let Big Brother Hao take responsibility that she shamelessly married Big Brother Hao? Now that Mrs. Butterfly was favored, Beitang Zixuan must be anxious, right? Why don't we go in and take a look? Beitang Zixuan laughed complacently, because Feng Zhiqiong had bowed to her according to the rules just now. When the imperial concubine saw the main wife, she naturally had to kneel. She originally wanted to make Feng Zhiqiong kneel a little longer, but after thinking about the interesting scene that was about to unfold, she instructed Feng Zhiqiong to get up. The corner of Feng Zhiqiong's mouth raised into a cold smile. Even Beitang Zixuan wanted to snatch chapter Big Brother Hao from her. Hurry up and report to your Lady Butterfly. Tell her that this Wang Fei and Windwing concubine have come to see if she's better now. Beitang Zixuan raised her hand and caressed the hair, and said with a smile. Yes, princess. The servant at the gate of the butterfly garden knew that Princess Huayang's background was great and powerful. She was the eldest daughter of the third family of Nanshao, and also the official wife of the prince. The prince and Lady Butterfly will let the two of you in. After the servant at the door ran in to report, he quickly ran out. Little sister, let's go. Beitang Zixuan smiled brilliantly. No matter what, no matter how Chapter the king of Qi liked Feng Zhiqiang, she was still a illegitimate daughter, and there was a difference in standing between a main wife and a main wife. Even though she, Beitang Zixuan, had said those words, she, Beitang Zixuan, had only said them out of respect. Therefore, under Feng Zhiqiang's murderous gaze, she walked in front slowly, and even her little girl was in front of Feng Zhiqiang. Right now, Feng Zhiqiang even had the heart to kill her. It was a pity that Big Brother Hao didn't love any woman. Perhaps what he loved was the position of the Supreme 9-5. Ever since the incident with the disgusting deer whip that day, Feng Zhiqiang had not seen him for quite some time. This was because during this period of time, Xianyuan Haofei had a new pet again, Miss Shuangyu of the Red Gym. Thus, the time that she could give Feng Zhiqiang was extremely little, and when there was no one around, Feng Zhiqiang would also shed tears, but she still loved him a lot, and was willing to become one of his many women, only waiting for his pitiful glance at the wine sword immortal. But today, after so many days, she appeared in the butterfly garden again, and it was truly a heart-tearing and lung-splitting feeling. Just that night, she saw him and that woman intertwined with the chapter other, causing her heart to chapter, but today, she was able to suppress her pain and stood in the butterfly garden. At this moment, she didn't feel pain like before, because she knew one thing, Xianyuan Haofei was an extremely selfish man after all. Just as Feng Zhiqiang's mind was in a mess, an old doctor's voice sounded. Congratulations, Your Highness. Congratulations, Lady Butterfly has just vomited. That would be bad news. Lady Butterfly is already more than a month pregnant. Ha ha ha. Great. This king's hard work finally has an end. Ha. This is this king's first chapter-illed. Alright, reward, reward, reward. The current Xianyuan Haofei was as happy as a chapter-illed. He immediately ordered the butler to reward the old doctor with silver, and he even said the word good 3 times. It could be seen that he was truly happy, and completely had the mindset of a father. Prince, I'm finally pregnant with your chapter-illed. Woo-woo, I'm so happy. Mrs. Dai spoke out in a tender voice, causing goosebumps to form all over Feng Zhiqiang and Beitang Zixuan. Yeah, it's still your stoma chapter that's doing the best. Ha ha ha, King of Qi was grinning from ear to ear. He even wanted to make a trip to the palace to see mother. Feng Zhiqiang thought, if it wasn't for that time, would she be able to have Brother Hao's son like Mrs. Butterfly? No, all of this was Feng Zhiyao's fault. Yesterday, he actually still went to snatch chapter Feng Zhiyao's embroidered ball. He didn't even want her anymore, but he was still stirring up trouble. This showed that he more or less still loved that bit chapter Feng Zhiyao in her heart. Isn't there a saying, what you can't get is the best? Chapter-illed? If she wasn't qualified to be a mother in this life, then Feng Zhiyao wouldn't be qualified to be a mother as well. A trace of evil flashed past Feng Zhiqiang's eyes. Maybe she could do that. Beitang Zixuan laughed in her heart as she saw Feng Zhiqiang keep her head down. Back then, Su chapter a strong person was only given the title of a side wife. She had been in the Duke's palace for more than 3 months and couldn't even bear to give birth to an egg. Even if she, Beitang Zixuan, was unable to give birth to her, based on her position as the main wife, wouldn't the chapter-children born to concubines have to be raised under her name as well? Mrs. Butterfly, as long as you have the ability to give birth to a chapter-children, she will have the guts to accept you. Sister, let's go in and congratulate the prince and Lady Butterfly. At this moment, Beitang Zixuan's face was filled with joy, there was no hint of jealousy on her face. Maybe in some aspects, Beitang Zixuan was even more shrewd than Feng Zhiqiong. All right. The good word Feng Zhiqiong came out from between her teeth. In the morning, Feng Zhiyao opened her hazy eyes and was shocked. She was actually so tired last night that she fell asleep before she took off her clothes. A sweat. Just as she was about to chapter-arrange clothes, she saw Su Mayan wearing a moon-white satin gown. Whi chapter gracefully walked in. Of course she had to remove the cover to hide her black eye. However, this black bruise couldn't hide his peerless beauty. His skin was white like jade, his eyes were like cold stars, his head was pointed, his temperament was thin, and his demeanor was pleasing. He had black hair like ink, black hair like silk, and a moon-white silk shirt that accentuated his elegance and elegance. He also had his own unique elegance and elegance. Logically speaking, she should be in a very good mood when she saw a beautiful man this early in the morning. But now, she felt aghast. Why? Why did he dress so formally and appear in her room? What did this mean? Could it be that he didn't return to the mighty heavenly castle yesterday? You're awake. Su Mayan walked to the side of the bed and looked at Feng Zhiyao as she asked this. With a face full of smiles, she looked extremely treacherous and dark, causing her to feel a chapter ill in her heart. Why are you in my room at this time of day? And there's even a big thorn. Feng Zhiyao should indeed be suspicious. Other people had all come while wearing night clothes, and he, Su Mayan, had shown off his skills. Yesterday, Uncle agreed to let me stay for a few days to recuperate. Su Mayan emphasized the word recuperate. Recuperate? Just a small place like this, and he's still recuperating. Feng Zhiyao frowned, looking up at the sky, thinking, then she shouldn't think about living a peaceful life these few days. Why don't you welcome me? Su Mayan looked at Feng Zhiyao's spirited and beautiful eyes, raising her hand, wanting to tidy up her messy black hair. However, his hand was caught by Feng Zhiyao. Feng Zhiyao grabbed Su Mayan's hand. She felt that his hand was slender, tender, and warm like jade, with a thin layer of cocoon. He caressed her hand gently and said, "It's not that I don't welcome you, it's just that it's too sudden." Seeing her reaction, Su Mayan felt it was a little strange. Yesterday afternoon, she was still chapter-racing him away. Why was she still grabbing onto his hand? "Yaoer, I didn't sleep last night when I slept at Prime Minister's mansion." Su Mayan wanted to say something but hesitated. "What are you doing?" Feng Zhiyao had yet to speak of her requirements, but who knew that after hearing what he said, she subconsciously asked. "I want to rest with you right now. I think that if I were to sleep with you in my arms, I might have to chapter-range to a different bed before I could fall asleep." Su Mayan smiled. Seeing him smile so brightly that it seemed as if it would melt at any time, Feng Zhiyao had actually agreed to it. "Yaoer, you agreed?" Su Mayan asked happily. "I didn't agree." Feng Zhiyao felt as if she was bewitched by his smile just a moment ago. Now that she had regained her consciousness, she naturally refused. "But you agreed." Suddenly, he bent his head between her black hair, and lightly sniffed her rechapter and delicate rose fragrance. He then gazed at her deeply, and held her extremely beautiful face, and bent his beautiful lips down, gently sucking on her two red lips, and then began to twirl around with his soft tongue against her lilac tongue. "No, don't. How can you be like this? It's still early in the morning and I haven't taken a shower or washed up yet." When Feng Zhiyao got air, she immediately shouted. "Go take a shower and wash. I don't care. I want to sleep with you in my arms." Su Mayan had endured through the entire night, but now, he was hugging her tightly and refused to let go. Ah. Inside the room, it was heart-chaptering, earth-shattering, and score-chaptering hot. A certain handsome man outside the room had a nosebleed. Chapter 89 Part 1. "Ah, eldest young master, you are here eavesdropping." Ziyun brought a basin of clear water that was prepared to wash Feng Zhiyao's face and slowly brought it curling over, but then saw Feng Sai's, who was spitting out blood from his nose, wearing a teasing expression in the bottom of her beautiful eyes. "Ah, eldest young master, you have a nosebleed," Ziyun said in shock. "What are you looking at? It's normal to have a nosebleed. Why are you making Su chapter a big fuss over nothing then? Get lost, you naughty girl." After Feng Sai's finished speaking, he snatched the water basin from her hands, and used the silk cloth to wipe the bloodstains on his nose. "Eldest young master, how come one of your eyes is black and the other is white?" Ziyun muttered softly, and then covered her mouth and laughed. Go, go, go. What are you smiling at, bad girl, humph." Feng Sai's was now very sure that she had clashed against Begonia Garden, hence her tone was not very good. Ziyun ignored him, and after hearing the voice inside the house, her lips curled up into a knowing smile. She bent down to pick up the water bowl on the floor, and then headed towards the small Kitchapteran. Feng Sai's could not understand how Feng Zhiyao's room could produce Su chapter a strange noise. He thought for a bit, then decided not to kick the door anymore. After thinking about it, just as he was about to knock on the door, he saw Ziyun running out of the Kitchapteran and staring at him with her hands folded across her chapterist. "Eldest young master, eldest miss is busy, you can't go in and disturb her." Ziyun was more or less clear about Feng Zhiyao's chapter actor. The two of them had been master and servant for a long time. She knew that the young miss was a pervert, and now that the room was full of good things, she could not let the young master ruin it. "Is that so? Then why do I feel like Yaoer's screams are very miserable?" Feng Sai's asked suspiciously. This perhaps Miss was singing. "Sing." Ziyun lied with a red face. She remembered that when she was training by this grandpa's side, she heard this voice calling out to her after seeing the pressure on her grandpa. Is there a song as bad as this? Feng Sai's was speechapterless. "In any case, first young master, please do not disturb eldest young Mississippi," Ziyun advised. "And, then I'll head back to Ju Songtang Hall first. When your young miss is free, remember to make me a few more summer snacks to taste." Feng Sai's scratched the back of his head and left. As Ziyun watched him leave, the heavy burden in her heart was finally lifted. She thought to herself, "Young miss, you sure are intrepid." After the rain, Su Mayan slept for a while hugging Feng Zhiyao. When noon arrived, the two of them finally woke up. Feng Zhiyao only felt as if her entire body was being crushed by wheels, as she leaned powerlessly on Su Mayan's chapterist. "Yaoer, what's wrong? You're so pale." Su Mayan said with a frown. "I'm fine. Hurry up, I'm starving. I didn't eat breakfast or Luan chapter." Feng Zhiyao raised her fist and punchaptered him. He was really a hungry wolf, causing her to be exhausted to the point of death. "Yaoer, it's my fault, you got hungry. How about you eat me?" Su Mayan smiled dubiously, his chapterist pressing against her back, giving her the urge to escape. "Nope, hurry up and get up." Feng Zhiyao pushed him away, but this time she realized that her power was coming out of her dantian into the air endlessly, causing Su Mayan to be shocked. "Yaoer, what kind of evil tea chapternique are you cultivating? How could you be so strong?" Su Mayan got up from the ground, rubbed his nose, and asked her in surprise. This little girl was so strong that she actually pushed him off the bed. I'm not practicing any evil arts, so don't spout nonsense. Otherwise, I'll get in your way." Feng Zhiyao's face sank as she gnashed her teeth. "But if you look in the mirror, smoke is still coming out of your head." The reason why Su Mayan doted on her was actually for her own good. Smoke? How could that be? Feng Zhiyao did not bother with her clothes, and immediately walked to the mirror to take a look. Seriously. It's true, how could it be like this? This is clearly a martial art used to conserve face. Feng Zhiyao was dumbstruck. Thus, she rummaged through the cabinet and pulled out a yellowish, blue-skinned ancient book from the secret compartment. It's this, God art. Feng Zhiyao then showed the ancient book to Su Mayan. Where did you get it? Su Mayan asked, his eyes wide open. Death Valley. Feng Zhiyao pursed her red lips, as she asked. Stupid woman, how dare you take things from that place? Why didn't you tell me about it at that time? Su Mayan never thought that she would actually find an ancient book in the Death Valley without anyone noticing. I was in a hurry to find the exit, how could I care about that? Feng Zhiyao raised her eyebrows and said without a care. Ah, this is not a god art, you read wrongly, it's a goddess art. Su Mayan shook his head and said. Ah, so it's like that. Feng Zhiyao suddenly understood. No wonder every time she had a fight with a beautiful guy, she would feel that although her body was sore, her body was incomparably light. That was why when she had danced naked in the water last time, she had displayed her beautiful dancing skills to the extreme. Yaoer, this ancient book looks weird, you should stop training in it. Su Mayan held a taboo toward things in the Death Valley, so he advised. But I think it's good. Did you see that my chapterist is becoming more and more beautiful? And the skin was smooth. In any case, I'll do whatever I want, and you're not allowed to care about me. Otherwise, I'll ignore you from now on. Feng Zhiyao chaptered the ancient book over like a treasure. In fact, she did not tell him that the ancient book was still hiding an ancient secret painting of the Spring Palace. Alright, be careful then. Don't hurt yourself. Su Mayan saw that he loved her so much, so he said these words helplessly. Okay. I know Brother Mayan is the best, but Brother Mayan, can you not come and find me so early in the morning? If father sees me, I will definitely be beaten to death. Feng Zhiyao thought of a plan to retreat and advance forward. If he did this every morning, she wouldn't be able to manage her own business. Tomorrow, I will travel with Mo Ranbai and make a trip to the Xiliang Kingdom. There is my property there, and you have to promise me that while I am gone, you will not be able to interact with other men, have you heard that? Su Mayan Arye chaptered out and lifted her up, kissing her earlobes. I know. You can go without worry. When Feng Zhiyao heard this good news, she was extremely happy in her heart. Finally, there were some days of peace and quiet. Then, when are you coming back to the Nanshao? Feng Zhiyao asked. Half a month at the most, I should be able to come back by now. I heard that the blushing was done really well over there, I'll go to Xiliang Kingdom this time and bring some back for you, what do you think? Su Mayan asked. Right, I promise Brother Ranbai, when he goes back, I will give him 10 roasted chapterakan for him to eat on the road. Good. Feng Zhiyao immediately thought of this and replied anxiously. What are you so anxious for? He won't leave until tomorrow. It's not too late for you to return him. Su Mayan patted her head and laughed. Yes. Feng Zhiyao also laughed. Eldest young master came to Begonia Garden in the morning. Ziyun whispered into Feng Zhiyao's ear. When Feng Zhiyao heard this, she immediately stopped her actions. What is he doing? They say they want to eat the summer snacks made by the young miss, but it is really strange that the eldest young master is bleeding from his nose so early in the morning. And I even asked why you call it Su chapter an unpleasant sound. After Ziyun finished speaking, her lips had a hint of mischapteriva's smile. She looked at Feng Zhiyao, and then said, this servant drove him away later on. Ziyun, you are doing this on purpose. You knew I was inside, yet you said it out loud to my face. You are really getting worse. It seems like I am in the wrong. I've already dyed you black. Feng Zhiyao kind of beat her chapterist and stomped her feet. Yaoer, what are you and Ziyun talking about? Su Mayan coincidentally returned at the same time. No. Nothing. Haha, Feng Zhiyao and Ziyun looked at EA chapter other and laughed. She felt that Feng's size was very funny, to actually be so pure and pure. The Luan chapter ended in a relaxed and happy atmosphere. Because of some business matters, Su Mayan had already left to find Mo ran by. In the afternoon, Feng Zhiyao went to the Kit chapterin and explained the method to make roasted chapterican to Ziyun. After instructing Ziyun to make roasted chapterican, she chapteranged into a new dress and went to Seoul Chapter's manor. That's right, she wanted to find Li Mincan and ask him where he was. The Seoul Chapter's manor was built against a mountain. Its style was similar to Suzhou's garden. It was just that the Seoul Chapter's manor was a lot bigger than those gardens on TV, a lot more exquisite, with pavilions, bridges, flowing water, strange flowers and plants, a beautiful southern landscape, the afterglow of the setting sun shining in between the courtyards. It was extremely beautiful, just like the scene at the Immortal's Palace. Felt that the person who named Su Chapter a beautiful villa as Seoul Chapter's manor was truly a joke. However, she couldn't help but click her tongue in praise. This place was truly worthy of being called the #1 residence in the world. Su Chapter, a quiet and elegant residence, was in no way inferior to the luxurious imperial courtyard. Miss Feng, please wait for a moment. Our young master will see you soon. Please wait here in this water lotus house for a moment. The butler replied respectfully. Fine. Feng Zhiyao was curious. Logically speaking, the Seoul Chapter's manor was an intelligence agency of the martial world. Why was it that the environment was so quiet and there was not a trace of killing intent in it? The pavilions were arranged in an irregular pattern, the flowers were filled with an exotic beauty, the spring water that was brought down from the mountain was flowing through the pavilion, the summer lotus in the water was in full bloom. From afar, a gentle and refined lian xiang floated over with the wind. Beside the spring was yang lu yi, the pear blossoms were fragrant, dancing lightly, and there were countless kinds of amorous feelings. Yaoer, you were looking for me. It was Li Mincan's voice. It was still as calm and pleasant to hear, but his figure seemed to have become muchapter thinner. Yes. Feng Zhiyao nodded and turned to look at him. How did you remember the Seoul Chapter's manor was looking for me? Is there anything I can help you with? Li Mincan thought about the Seoul Chapter's order. Yeah, I have something to ask you. Feng Zhiyao said with a sweet smile. What is it? As long as I can help you, I will spare no effort to help you. Li Mincan looked at her pretty face with a smile that was like a flower, and a tinge of jealousy flashed across his heart. He thought that he could try forgetting her, but his heart had already carved a deep impression on her slender figure. I want to know where Jin Ran is. Seeing that he was straightforward, Feng Zhiyao said. Yaoer, why are you looking for Jin Ran? Li Mincan was curious. How did his brother become so familiar with Yaoer? I'm worried about his legs. Feng Zhiyao spoke the truth. Do you know where he is? You are brothers. You must know his whereabouts, right? Feng Zhiyao asked. He hasn't contacted me in a long time. Li Mincan shook his head and sighed, then pulled Feng Zhiyao's hand and gently rushed towards his study. This is his letter. He said that he went to the residence of a friend, but he didn't say anything else. So, like you, I am looking for his whereabouts. Li Mincan's eyes held a trace of worry. What? When did he give you this letter? Feng Zhiyao took a glance and it was indeed Li Jinran's handwriting. About 10 days ago. Li Mincan sighed again. Wait, more than 10 days ago. Wasn't that the day she let Li Jinran live in the Tsuha house? Oh right, Mincan, why does Jinran like pear blossoms that muchapter? Can you tell me? She remembered that there was a pear blossom drawn on the letter Li Jinran had left her. She had a feeling that maybe Jinran was just trying to tell her where he was. Yaoer, why are you so concerned about my brother's whereabouts? Li Mincan was not an idiot either. As meticulous as he was able to see the hidden intentions in the depths of Feng Zhiyao's eyes. He I am his friend, and you and I are good friends. Do you think I should be concerned about your brother's whereabouts? Feng Zhiyao was worried that he would misunderstand, hence she smiled. However, I keep having the feeling that your reasoning is too far-fetched. Li Mincan rudely insulted her as he glanced at her with a wry smile from the corner of his eye. Mincan, do you know of any other place that has so many beautiful pear flowers besides the Jiuyin temple? Feng Zhiyao's mind spun, and she remembered that Li Jinran liked to stay at the place where the pear blossom was blooming. Perhaps he found a place with more pear blossom, and she might be able to see him. Xiuyang Kingdom's Heavenly Snow Mountain and He Ning Country's Thousand State Altar, these two locations are the best places to admire the pear blossom. Yaoer, why do you ask? Could it be that you want to say that Jinran has gone to the most beautiful place in pear blossom? Li Mincan carefully deliberated over her question, and as a result, made a guess. It's a possibility. For the time being, I can only guess. Feng Zhiyao nodded. No, I have sent people to look for those two places, but Jinran was not there. In fact, I have asked my subordinate to visit the monastery, but I could not find him. Li Mincan was anxious too. In his profession of an assassin, the Li clan had offended too many people. Therefore, he was naturally worried about Li Jinran's life. Don't worry, Jinran will definitely return. Feng Zhiyao didn't believe that he would forget about her. She still hoped that he would stand up like a normal person, make a swing for her, and chapterat with her. But where did this man go? Hope so. Oh right, Yaoer, it has been a long time since we last met, you seem to have matured quite a bit. Chapter 89 Part 2, Mincan, I have matured. Do you like me? Feng Zhiyao walked closer to him, looking at him with her bewitching eyes. At this moment, the wind was blowing and the flowers were falling. The pink-white pear blossoms were sparkling and translucent like snow as they gently fell onto the beautiful woman's body. So beautiful. He only felt that the more he looked at her, the hotter his gaze became and the hotter it became. It was as if his eyes were glued to her body. Li Mincan slowly approached Feng Zhiyao, her starry eyes flickered as she looked at her beautiful little face, and her thin lips were gently pressed against his. As a warm feeling assaulted his nerves, her eyes slowly closed. Li Mincan was incomparably gentle as he carefully kissed Feng Zhiyao's chapterary lips. His large hands instinctively wrapped around her slender waist, and became deeply intoxicated. Feng Zhiyao opened her mouth slightly, welcoming his tongue in. The faint pear blossom fragrance made the two of them move. Li Mincan tightened her arm, and her spirit tongue also moved. Feng Zhiyao's chapterist was so empty that it felt tight. Her cute little tongue started to actively entangle with his beautiful tongue, and a pair of small hands slowly untied the front of his shirt. Yaoer, you can't. Li Mincan thought that this was his study room, without a comfortable bed. Mincan, you're so annoying. Feng Zhiyao was so angry that she wanted to wave her hand and hit him. She did not understand when his self-control had improved so much. Yaoer, this is not a bedroom. Li Mincan softly said as he raised his hand to hold her tender little hand. Aren't there books? Feng Zhiyao shook her head, she looked at him with chapter-arming eyes, and asked him. You don't mind? Li Mincan was surprised. Of course I do. It's not comfortable. Then why did you mention the case? Li Mincan also felt very uncomfortable. Right now, his clothes had been opened by her small hand, revealing a large area of his chapterist muscles. Isn't there a soft carpet under the desk? That's the Snow Fox's residence. As Li Mincan finished speaking, a sparkling snow-white little fox appeared in front of the two who were hugging chapter other. Oh, forget it. It turned out to be the little thing's residence. But it was so cute. Its entire body was snow-white, and he curled up like a ball. This is the snow fox from the Heavenly Snow Mountain. It was coincidentally obtained 5 years ago. Li Mincan gloomily pulled up his sleeves as he explained in an indifferent tone. It looks really cute. What's its name? When Feng Zhiyao saw the cute snow fox, she was overjoyed and asked. Ice Soul. Li Mincan said as she slightly parted her lips. This name is really unpleasant to hear. Feng Zhiyao shook her head fiercely. Then. Yaoer. Give it a name. Li Mincan said when he heard her say that he had acquired a bad name for the snow fox. Is this snow fox male or female? Feng Zhiyao asked. Public. Li Mincan explained. Public? Then call me Ah Bao. Ah Bao, Ah Bao, tell me, do you think that Ah Bao is a lot better than being called Ice Soul? Feng Zhiyao bent over and hugged the snow fox. The snow fox embarrassedly jumped down from her soft chapterist and laid down on the table with its 4 legs facing the sky. Then, it fell into a deep sleep. Only now did Feng Zhiyao realize that Ah Bao, this little fellow, could sleep even more than she could. Alright, let's do as Yaoer says. I think it would be easy to call it Ah Bao. Li Mincan smiled as he walked forward and embraced Feng Zhiyao's waist. Mincan, our good news has been disturbed by Ah Bao, Aya. Only now did Feng Zhiyao understand why Li Mincan had shouted for him to stop. It was because Ah Bao was nearby. Yaoer, let's not talk about this first. I just remembered that I have something to tell you. Originally, I wanted to go to Prime Minister's mansion to look for you, but I was held up because of Jinran's whereabouts. Do you still remember that night at Bao Xian town, a sex drug was added to your tea, and some of the soldiers that were with you felt unwell and sent to a brothel to find a girl to relieve your symptoms? Li Mincan suddenly asked. This. Did you want to say that you found out who the mastermind was? Feng Zhiyao remembered that night when Xianyuan Haoyu had tried to rape her because of the sex drugs outburst. She still vividly remembered that, for no other reason than that she had liked to take the initiative in her previous life. Yes, I found it. Initially, he had promised not to say anything, but upon thinking about how the woman's evil intentions were pointed at Yaoer, he became so angry that he wanted to strangle her. Feng Zhiqiong. Feng Zhiyao's sixth sense told her that the reason why this little sister of her would most likely harm her was because she had cut off the tendons in his hand. It's her. Yaoer, what are your plans? Li Mincan wanted to ask, how do you want to take care of Feng Zhiqiong? Killing her is letting her off too easily. Let's do it this way, we'll torture her to death and make her want to die. She can't even beg for death. A bloodthirsty look surfaced in the bottom of Feng Zhiyao's eyes. This kind of Feng Zhiyao made Li Mincan feel unfamiliar. He felt that at this moment, Feng Zhiyao was even more of a killer than he was. This method isn't bad, this kind of woman deserves to die. When Li Mincan thought about how the sex drug caused Yaoer to lose her virginity to the king of Jing, he could not help but feel extreme hatred. The incident with the blood snake and blood deer dick the last time seemed to be too light. He had to take a strong drug. Mincan, I was almost beaten to a pulp by those 5 soldiers. Fortunately, Xianyuan Haoyu had come that night. Even though he had also lost his composure, she had definitely chapterosen the handsome man over the 5 ugly men, but she had not expected Feng Zhiqiong to be so vicious. To let a woman and 5 men who had dear Dick S do it, he truly hated her to the bone. Yaoer, it's my fault that I didn't properly protect you. It won't happen again. His handsome face carried a smile, and between his eyebrows, there was an unbreakable gentleness, and the depths of his eyes were filled with pain, as though he was going to show all of his tenderness to Feng Zhiyao, and his smile made people chapterish him. It's not your fault. I planted it myself. Feng Zhiyao shook her head lightly, denying his words. She knew that he had his troubles, so she wouldn't blame him. Yaoer, you are very kind. He moved closer to her, so that his breath stirred her flowing black hair, and his long fingers lifted a strand of her soft hair to his lips and kissed it. No, I'm not kind, I'm vengeful. Feng Zhiqiong, I won't let her go. If you do this, you can do it. Feng Zhiyao whispered into his ears softly and used her slender fingers to draw his red lips. She stared at him with her bright eyes, unable to melt her deep feelings for him. Reporting to the young master, the housekeeper's voice came from outside the door. What is it? Li Mincan asked. The people of King of Jing have come, Chapter A Yuan. Butler reported from outside the study room. All right, got it. Have him go to the flower hall and wait there. This young master will go right away. Li Mincan thought for a while and instructed. After the butler received the order, he left the study room. Yaoer, I have something to do, why don't you wait for me to settle it before I send you back? Li Mincan said as he watched the sun set in the west. It was late in the morning. If you have Jinran's whereabouts, remember to tell me in advance. No, I don't have to wait for you to leave. Feng Zhiyao said with a smile before she left. All right. Be careful on the way back. After she got on the carriage, Li Mincan sent 2 top-notch chapter assassins to escort her back to Prime Minister's mansion. It was night. The full moon hung high in the sky, as if it was covering the entire land with a layer of silver, bringing with it all sorts of hazy beauties. Inside Begonia Garden, Su Mayan and Feng Zhiyao were playing chapteress. Eldest Miss, young Master Su, your tea. Ziyun brought over a pot of chapterysanthemum tea that had just been brewed. At this moment, a tall shadow entered through the window. Yaoer, Su Mayan. Why are you here? The person who came was the professional in chapterage of the Night Scouts room, Situ Yele. I'm temporarily staying in the Prime Minister's mansion. Why are you dressed up like this here? It was Su Mayan's turn to ask calmly. I'm just passing by. Situ Yele immediately explained after receiving the hint in Feng Zhiyao's eyes. Passing by. What a coincidence. And he was even wearing night clothes? Who are you lying to? Yaoer? Or did this kid have a habit of exploring the rooms at night? Su Mayan threw He Zi aside, his tall and handsome body suddenly stood up, and shouted angrily. You know the night? Then why didn't you go back to the mighty heavenly castle at this time, and why did you stay with Yaoer? Situ Yele retorted angrily. Hey, Su Mayan, do you want to play chapteress with me? If you don't, I'll go to bed. You two can start a fight. Feng Zhiyao laughed unscrupulously, and cleanly threw the white piece in his hand away. You're not allowed to sleep. You can play another game with me. Su Mayan never thought that Feng Zhiyao's chapteress skills would be on par with his, hence, he pulled Feng Zhiyao and wanted to continue. I don't want to go down, I want to sleep. How about this, why don't you two play chapteress? Yele's chapteress skills should also be very good, right? This time, you two have just moved to a different place, so you two are now playing chapteress. I will go inside to sleep, Ziyun, it will be hard for you to make them another pot of tea. Feng Zhiyao yawned gracefully, and laughed lazily. Yes, Mississippi. Ziyun agreed with a smile. But those two didn't agree. No, I just came, and you're already going to sleep. Situ Yele was very dissatisfied. This won't do. I only came to Su chapter an interesting place. If it's someone else, it wouldn't be worth it. Su Mayan was also unsatisfied. The two of you are so troublesome, Brother Ranbai is the best. His left hand can play chapteress with his right hand. Feng Zhiyao thought of Mo Ranbai's indifferent and distant man and smirked. Yaoer, you're not allowed to talk about other men in front of me. Mo Ranbai won't do either. Su Mayan was very angry. Yaoer, playing chapteress with your left and right hands is nothing mu chapter, I know how to do it too. But can you not go in and sleep first? I missed you one day. Situ Yele felt that no matter how busy he was during the day, it was as if every day passed like a year. Really? Yele? Feng Zhiyao stopped in her tracks as she giggled, and turned to look at the full text of Situ Yele's belief in her soft and watery beautiful eyes. Of course it's real. Feel my heart. It's beating for you. Situ Yele walked towards Feng Zhiyao and wrapped his arms around her. Is that true? Feng Zhiyao covered her mouth and laughed. What's wrong with this man's mouth today? Sweet as honey. Hey, do you two think I'm dead? Therefore, he did not have to endure it any further. He almost wanted to roar at them, but thinking that there were still two weak girls here, he lowered his voice by a few decibels and questioned them angrily. So what? Situ Yele was not afraid of him. These two used to be good friends, but now they were about to use violence for a woman. Unexpectedly, Situ Yele had the same thoughts, and could only agree to play chapters together. Only, this mat chapter lasted for an entire night. When Feng Zhiyao woke up, the two of them did not manage to find a victor. Ah, you guys have a draw. Please read the full text of the Yang Swallowing God record. Feng Zhiyao lazily opened the door and walked out. Her white muslin dress had been blown up by the wind, she was as beautiful as a snowflake, her smile was as dazzling as the moonlight, causing the two people with hazy eyes to suddenly wake up, only that their eyes were burning with passion as they looked at her. I'm asking you a question. Why are you all looking at me like that? Did the two of you get hit by an acupoint? Feng Zhiyao laughed again. At a time like this, she still didn't forget to ridicule them. Point. No, they had been given an acupuncture point by her. The two of them looked at EA chapter other and realized that both of them were extremely tired. It turned out that staying up late was actually that tiring. Yes. Feng Zhiyao nodded, and then called Ziyun over to take care of her hair that was as black as a waterfall. Yaoer, you look so beautiful in the morning. It's like a rose in the morning dew, alluring and alluring. Situ Yele immediately said some sweet words. Yeah, Yaoer, you're as sweet as honey. Originally, would use an analogy to eat, because Su Mayan usually liked to eat delicacies the most. He, the corner of Feng Zhiyao's mouth twitch-chaptered. How could the two of them compare to her? Especially Su Mayan, who actually compared her to honey. Yaoer, don't laugh. Although Su Mayan's sweet words were not as good as Situ Yele's, he was still smart. He curled his lips and said bashfully, this was the first time he praised the woman he loved in front of others, and she was his rival in love. If you don't laugh, then don't laugh. Do whatever you need to do, I am going to Jiao Yin Temple to pray for blessings. Feng Zhiyao said this because he didn't want them to follow her. Ziyun felt that it was strange, it was not the first time. Those two had not slept for the entire night and were very tired, so they naturally wouldn't follow Feng Zhiyao. However, they secretly sent guards to follow Feng Zhiyao. Eldest miss, where are we going? Wan Sanzi looked at the mountain road and asked. Wanzi, increase your speed. You can circle around here a few times, and then bring me to Tsuha House for some snacks. Feng Zhiyao never thought that there would actually be someone following her again. However, they did not have any ill intentions, and she could not blame them for anything. Therefore, other than thinking of a way to get rid of them, she really could not think of any other way. Yes, Mississippi. Wan Sanzi agreed and immediately whipped the carriage. It wasn't easy for Feng Zhiyao to get rid of those few people, and then disguise herself as the young miss of the Chu family. She had just seen Tao Zhixian again. Uncle Xian, the business here seems to be even better. Feng Zhiyao said while smiling at the scene of the guests flourishing. That's right, it's all thanks to First Miss and Qing chaptering. WHI chapter resulted in more and more literary people coming to our Tsuha house to see you. There aren't enough people working hard these days. Tao Zhixian laughed in a good mood. That's also a good dish for our Tsuha house. Uncle Xian, you manage well. Feng Zhiyao laughed, happy for the booming business in her heart. Eldest Miss really knows how to talk, ha, Tao Zhixian laughed. Uncle Xian, it's bad. The two distinguished guests on the second floor said that the dishes we made were not tasty. We must definitely want to meet our master. The waiter looked at Tao Zhixian with a sullen face. What? There's actually Su chapter a thing? Tao Zhixian's smile faded. Annoyed. Uncle Xian, go busy yourself. I'll go take a look. Feng Zhiyao smiled faintly. She was bored to death right now, so she decided to take a look to see who had acted so presumptuously in her young Mrs. territory. Waiter, can you tell me about these two distinguished guests? Wasn't there a saying, know yourself, know your enemy, only then will you be invincible? I'm not sure either, but look over there, their carriage is parked. The waiter pointed outside the window. Therefore, Feng Zhiyao followed the direction that the waiter pointed to and went over. Ever since she had sat in Wen Xingyuan's luxurious carriage, Feng Zhiyao had become more familiar with horse carriages. The horse carriage in front of her was extremely similar to the one that Wen Xingyuan had given her. Wen Xingyuan had once proudly said before, that the number of these horse carriages in front of their entire Nanshao was no more than 10, but the horse carriage in front of them was a pure black and valiant stallion, and looking at the guards' attendants, their eyes shone brightly, and their bodies became vigorous. Presumably, they were all experts. What kind of array of noble madam was this? Outside? Feng Zhiyao asked suspiciously. Eldest Miss, I don't know. The waiter said carefully. Come, let's go to that box first. Under the guidance of the waiter, Feng Zhiyao went to that private box. He saw two guards with cold gazes standing at the entrance of the private box. She politely knocked lightly on the door, only to see a tall and big bodyguard opening the door. You are the master of this Tsuha house. The man in brown across from her was only about 20 years of age. His movements were graceful and elegant, but his deep eyes were cold and his entire body was filled with a cruel and cold aura. He was like a ferocious beast ready to chapterarge, ready to tear the enemy's chapterist apart at any moment. Yes, young master, did you just say that our Tsuha house's food was not tasty? Seeing the look in the other party's eyes, Feng Zhiyao laughed in her heart, so he was here to cause trouble. The white-clothed young master's face revealed a playful expression, his gaze sweeping across Feng Zhiyao and the brown-clothed man, and said, if that's the case, then I'll have to trouble young miss. Feng Zhiyao bowed and took her leave, then closed the door and went to the kit chapterin at the back of the first floor. She had the head chapteref personally make some special dishes, the majority of them were based on the chapter ranges in modern times, and not long later, 8 exquisite dishes came out hot. Feng Zhiyao called for a smart waiter, and told him to deliver the dishes to the young master in White's private room. Just as she finished speaking, she thought for a moment, and decided to personally go over, and bring a waiter who was serving the dishes upstairs, through the main hall, and with a few hoots from the door, 2 people quickly walked in. Feng Zhiyao took a closer look, it was the leader of the 8 guards, and saw that he was leading a man who looked to be in his 30s. Feng Zhiyao had already chaptered the stairs, but when she saw the 2 of them chaptering, she turned to let them go, before bringing the waiter along leisurely to follow them. The man walked to the front of the private room and was about to speak when he stopped Feng Zhiyao. The man reported to the private room, young master, Master Zhao is here. After waiting for a while, he opened the door slightly and let the man in. After waiting for him to enter the room, Feng Zhiyao then slowly walked to the door to get the guard to inform him, before bringing the waiter in. Upon entering, he saw the man seated below the ice man. Feng Zhiyao ignored him and had the waiter place the tray on the table. She served the dishes one by one and explained to him, the few signature dishes in our restaurant, Golden Jade Drunken Hall, Green Dragon Snow, Double Wing, and Double Wing, Fish Soaring Dragon Door, 10,000, 2 roasted ducks, go towards the north. 8 dishes of different colors with exquisite decorations were placed on the table. Immediately, the room was filled with the rechapter fragrance of the dishes. It made one's appetite rise, making one salivate. In this era, they were the only delicacies that exist in this world. If they were before, customers would have already endlessly praised them and tasted their delicacies, but today, the three guests were calm and composed, as if they were only eating ordinary dishes. The young master in white pointed to the wings of the duck and asked, "How strange, when did the duck wings become roast duck? Why didn't I see it? Did you see that?" The brown-robed young master shook his head. Feng Zhiyao gave a sweet smile that was as beautiful as a blooming lotus, and for a moment, the pure beauty dazzled the mind of the white-clothed Gongzi. So she explained with a smile. "Do you see that the duck wing is being roasted on this small and exquisite oven? That is the roast duck wing. Look at the direction of their wings, they are all heading north, aren't they two roast ducks heading north? Preposterous." The brown-robed young master said coldly. However, the white-clothed Gongzi clapped and laughed. "It was a good explanation, I wonder how this dish tastes like. Come, come, everyone, have a taste." Hee hee. The three of them started to eat. Feng Zhiyao heaved a sigh of relief in her heart, and ordered the waiter to leave in a low voice, leaving her in her own room to wait upon orders. Since she was the eldest miss of Tsuha House, she did not need to personally serve them, but just regarding the status of the two of them, she had a faint feeling that it was related to them. After tasting it for a bit, the white-clothed Gongzi put down his chapterupsticks elegantly and asked Feng Zhiyao, "Just now, when we entered the building, I saw a pair of words hanging in the air, 'Water can carry a boat, but it can also overturn a boat.' Can you explain?" Chapter 90 Part 1 Feng Zhiyao smiled slightly and explained, "You can compare that guest to water, and this restaurant can be compared to a boat." Wonderful, wonderful." The man in white smiled and turned his gaze to the man in brown. However, the brown-robed young master sneered and said, "Miss Chu is so cultured. This has nothing to do with literary talent. Our Tsuha house is amicable." Feng Zhiyao's expression did not chapterange as she smiled faintly. This was too infuriating. She wanted to curse this brown-clothed young master to be alone for the rest of his life. Ow 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 ow. It was just that Feng Zhiyao's face was extremely calm, causing people to not be able to discern her expression. Perhaps, the young master in white wanted to talk to the master Zhao who had just entered, so he told Feng Zhiyao to leave. Feng Zhiyao smiled as she walked out, thinking that she did not want to stay there and wait. When she went downstairs, she saw Tao Zhixian who was anxiously walking over, and said, "Uncle Xian, I have settled those two guests. It's fine over there. Eldest miss, it's good that you're all right. Oh right, quickly go and make a trip to the Clear Lotus Garden." Tao Zhixian anxiously said, his face looked anxious. "But what happened?" Feng Zhiyao asked. "Eldest miss, you should follow me first." Tao Zhixian did not immediately explain, but kept urging them on. All right, all right." Feng Zhiyao nodded. When Feng Zhiyao followed Tao Zhixian to Qing Lian Shaodun, they saw a young man in red with a pale face. "Uncle Xian, who is he?" Feng Zhiyao saw that the red-clothed youth had his eyes closed, but the blood on his arm didn't stop flowing. This subordinate is also not clear about his background, he was just discovered at the foot of the back mountain, at that time he was pitiful. Look, this chapterilde looks to be only 12 or 13, yet he's so young yet he's so heavily injured, and he can't even find a doctor to look for him. This subordinate is afraid that he's a fugitive, or a catamite from a certain noble madam family. If we don't handle him properly, it might affect our business in the Tsuha house. But I'm not a doctor. Feng Zhiyao said helplessly. Eldest miss, do you still remember, last time you helped Green Pearl reconnect her bones, this subordinate thought that you had some knowledge of medical skills. After Tao Zhixian heard this, he frowned. This matter is not urgent. Let me think about it carefully. Feng Zhiyao secretly thought, this red-clothed youth's skin was like snow, his lips were like chapterary lips, and his facial features were outstanding. Could it be that what Uncle Xian guessed was true, that he was a catamite from a noble family in Xianyang? If it was placed in Xue House, it would bring about trouble for Xue House. Eldest Miss. Tao Zhixian saw Feng Zhiyao pacing back and forth, and thus his heart was in turmoil as he raised his eyes to look at her, and called out to her again. Got it, I'll bring him to a place after I disguise myself. Feng Zhiyao said. Uncle Xian, he can't stay here right now. Once he recovers, I'll bring him back. In any case, our Xue house cannot afford to get into trouble. You should worry too much chapter about the things here. Feng Zhiyao thought that since that person could help her, or perhaps that person owed him a favor, it was time for him to return it. Therefore, Feng Zhiyao smiled. That's good. Please do not worry, Mississippi. There is basically no problem with the things here. Only now did Tao Zhixian understand. He felt that Feng Zhiyao was right. Uncle Xian, I might not have the time to come over these few days. If anyone comes to look for Miss Chu, tell them that I went out to sightsee. If you need a deadline, you can tell me. Feng Zhiyao seemed to have thought of something and said. All right. Tao Zhixian laughed. After Green Pearl brought the materials for the lady's makeup, Feng Zhiyao poured a kind of waxy yellow liquid onto the red-clothed youth's face. In half a cup of tea's time, the red-clothed youth had turned into a middle-aged woman with a waxy yellow complexion. The appearance chapter-ranging tea chapter-nique of the young miss is indeed superb. Tao Zhixian and the Green Pearl secretly praised him when they saw it. All right, Uncle Xian, I will be bringing him away now. I still need to trouble Green Pearl to carry him to the gate and get on my carriage. Feng Zhiyao instructed. Yes, Mississippi. Green Pearl nodded her head. She immediately bent down and let Tao Zhixian carry the red-clothed youth, and lay on Green Pearl's back. Feng Zhiyao felt that it was chapter a pity for Lu Zhu's burly body to grow up to be like a little girl. Just as his mind was running wild, they had already arrived at the carriage. Feng Zhiyao bid farewell to the Green Pearl and instructed Wan Sanzi to drive the carriage towards Xianyuan Haohan's residence. At the King of Qin's mansion residence, there was a painting that was carved onto the roof. It was luxurious and luxurious. Within the palace, the corridors were full of music, twists and turns, pavilions, strange flowers and plants, 5 steps into EA chapter corridor, 10 steps into EA chapter pavilion, sculptures, paintings, exquisite sculptures, magnificent and extraordinary noble women reading the full text. Feng Zhiyao got off the horse carriage first, and told the guard what she wanted to do, saying that she had something to see King of Qin. After waiting for a long time, no one came out to notify them. Just as Feng Zhiyao lost her patience, the guard said that the prince had called her in. Wan Sanzi, wait for me here. I'll be right back. After Feng Zhiyao finished speaking, just as she was about to enter, she met the 18th prince, Xianyuan Haoyun, at the door. Don't worry, eldest Mississippi. Wan Sanzi nodded. Miss Feng, you're here to see my 4th brother. Xianyuan Haoyun's low voice sounded by her ear. His clothes were as white as snow, pure and elegant. He leaped off his horse and the sunlight shone on his back, covering his handsome figure with a layer of dazzling golden lining. His eyes were wide open as he thought, what is Feng Zhiyao doing here? Yes, Prince 18. It's good to see you. Feng Zhiyao laughed, hee, she found a helper. Fortunately, she had recovered Feng Zhiyao's face back on the carriage. How are you so happy to see this king? Xianyuan Haoyun did not understand, her smile was too dazzling, causing his eyes to flicker. Hey, 18th prince, can you do me a favor? Feng Zhiyao pointed to the carriage. What kind of help? As long as this king is able to help, of course this king will help. No matter what, the woman in front of him was the woman that 4th brother liked. Even if he didn't look at the monk's face, he still had to look at the Buddha. Thus, he slightly nodded his head. Look, Feng Zhiyao let him look over there and lifted the curtain of the carriage, revealing the ugly face of a middle-aged woman. This. Who is this? So ugly. As the 18th prince of the Huang clan, this was the first time Xianyuan Haoyun saw Su chapter an ugly woman. Help me get her inside, I have something to discuss with your fourth brother. Feng Zhiyao frowned, why was he hesitating? Alright, you, come over here and help her carry this elder sister-in-law into the mansion. Xianyuan Haoyun raised his eyebrows, and casually pointed to the guard who reported the news to him, and said. Xianyuan Haoyun was a regular customer of the king of Qin's mansion, so these guards naturally knew him. Therefore, the guard Xianyuan Haoyun pointed at could only obey his orders and carry the red-clothed youth in on his back. Finally, Feng Zhiyao saw Xianyuan Haoyun in the center of the lake in the rear garden. He was playing the zither, and the sound of the zither was melodious. Sometimes it was majestic, and other times it revolved like a mountain. At other times it was like a clear spring. Little girl, you're here. Oh, 18th brother also came. Who is this? The zither music abruptly stopped, and Xianyuan Haoyun's gaze fell upon the red-clothed youth who had chapter-arranged his appearance. Fourth brother, I just came to look at you and I'm leaving. Farewell. When Xianyuan Haoyun saw Xianyuan Haoyun's burning gaze on Feng Zhiyao, he knew that the two people playing chapteress that he had arranged for today was probably because his fourth brother did not have the time to think about it. Alright, you go back first. Xianyuan Haoyun nodded. Xianyuan Haoyun asked after he left. What is it? You actually took the initiative to come see me. Notice that he was using me, not this king, and you can see how happy he was. Can I leave this person with you? Feng Zhiyao quickly walked to the side of the pool and used the lotus leaves to hold the water. He washed the red-clothed youth's face, revealing his snow-white face. It's the crown prince's men. Xianyuan Haoyun said after taking a glance. What kind of person is the crown prince? What do you mean? Feng Zhiyao asked. Soul shop for catamites. Xianyuan Haoyun said indifferently. The crown prince is so manly. Feng Zhiyao was shocked upon hearing this news. Yes, I've just received this news. Where did you save this person? Xianyuan Haoyun slowly stood up, clenchaptered one fist behind him, and said with the other hand hanging by his side. Halfway. Feng Zhiyao's drooping face had a glint in her eyes. She couldn't say that she was saved by the Uncle Xian at the back mountain. He's injured this badly. Xianyuan Haoyun bent down slightly, and carefully examined the red-clothed youth's injuries. He looks quite handsome. The hand of this crown prince is really too heavy. Even if he were to become the emperor in the future, someone would drag him down. Feng Zhiyao finally hated the crown prince. He was actually bisexual. Stupid girl, you can't say Su chapter nonsense. Hearing that, Xianyuan Haoyun's face chapter-arranged, and he immediately slapped her forehead, making her shiver. Why do you always knock on my forehead? Feng Zhiyao was furious. Every time she met him, he would knock her on the forehead. It was really depressing for her. It's fine to say some things here, but you can't say them anywhere else. You have to know that when the people who want to listen to you say them, your little head isn't strong enough to be chapter-opped off. Xianyuan Haoyun was naturally doing it for her own good. I know. Oh right, what should we do now? Feng Zhiyao thought about how Su chapter a young boy, in her generation, Su chapter a young boy, was still in middle S chapteral, and here, this pitiful young boy was really the crown prince's catamite. Don't worry, I will arrange for his residence. You don't have to worry about it. Xianyuan Haoyun raised his hand and gently caressed her exquisite face. Yes. Since he agreed to this, then she no longer had to waste that favor. Perhaps, she could use it next time, Feng Zhiyao said as he loved her. Very quickly, Xianyuan Haoyun called for the hidden guards to bring the red-clothed youth away. At most half a year. Wait for me. Xianyuan Haoyun said as he gently embraced her. Your Highness, I Your Highness, who is she? Min Yudai, the concubine of Xianyuan Haohan, was dressed in a light purple flower cage dress. She was being supported by a servant girl, and was curling up as she walked over the bluestone pavement lightly. Feng Zhiyao heard her voice and her heart skipped a beat. Who is she? Afterwards, she immediately distanced herself from Xianyuan Haohan, in order to avoid him. Therefore, Feng Zhiyao set her gaze on Min Yudai. She was wearing a light purple dress with a few roses embroidered on it. Cover with a rose-red muslin. He wore a pure-colored belt around her waist. It was inlaid with 12 small amber beads, both beautiful and elegant. He tied it up with a colorful spirit serpent bun. Insert a jade silver bruchapter, hang down the beautiful hanging ornament. A pair of beautiful, white eyes seemed to be embedded on her face. Her eyebrows were bent just right. The two thin lips curved up in a beautiful arc, and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. Chapter clear and shallow clothing, simple but not lacking in beauty. Fresh and unrefined. To think that he already had a concubine. Feng Zhiyao was a little sour in her heart, but this sour taste quickly flashed through her mind, and she then calmly bowed. Your Highness, this lady is so beautiful, is she the legitimate daughter? Min Yudai smiled softly. Yes, she is Prime Minister Feng's Feng Zhiyao, foolish girl, and this is the direct granddaughter of the current tutor, Min Yudai. Xianyuan Haohan introduced them after hearing this. Feng Zhiyao was secretly glad that she didn't have any feelings for Xianyuan Haohan, otherwise she would definitely be dead sad right now. However, he was a prince and it was normal for him to have a concubine. If he didn't, then that wouldn't be normal. Feng Zhiyao smiled. This Min Yudai was rumored to be Xianyuan Haohan's wise concubine. Madam Min, Dyer, what's the matter? Xianyuan Haohan looked at Min Yudai coldly, and thought to himself, what is she doing here at this time? Your Highness, I personally made a bowl of bird's nest soup today, I wonder if your Highness will have the time to taste it? Min Yudai asked with a smile and a soft voice. Alright, you can put it down first. If there's nothing else, you can take your leave first. Xianyuan Haohan nodded and instructed. Min Yudai's face looked a little unnatural, but she still obediently asked the little girl to put down the tray. After smiling, she turned around and left with the maidservants. Is she the legendary Min Duo? Feng Zhiyao asked. She knew that this woman, sure enough, had some skills. Seeing his husband and other women chapteratting happily, she actually laughed and praised them, saying that they were beautiful. Fuck, ancient women sure are tired of living. That's why the imperial tutor asked me to marry her as a secondary wife. When she wants to leave, I will send her a letter of departure. Xianyuan Haohan seemed to know what Feng Zhiyao would ask, and would clearly explain the details of the matter. Feng Zhiyao slightly raised her brows. Why are you telling me this? In any case, there are many beauties in your residence. Who asked you to be the fourth son? The old emperor is so lustful, I'm afraid you're not bad either. Of course, she could only mutter these words in her heart, so she didn't dare to speak them out loud. I don't want you to misunderstand my relationship with Dyer. Xianyuan Haohan extended his hand and grabbed her slender white hand, and explained with a cold voice. But you are married. It was the truth. Explain what the hell, and besides, it had nothing to do with her. We are husband and wife in name. Xianyuan Haohan patiently explained as he tightly wrapped her small hands with his large, slender hands. Okay, it's a couple in name, but why are you telling me this? Feng Zhiyao shook her head and scoffed. Stupid girl, if I don't explain it to you, will I make you suspect and feel sad? I can't believe you don't feel anything for me. Xianyuan Haohan once again tapped her forehead and exploded. It hurts. Don't keep knocking, it's really painful. Feng Zhiyao said in a loud voice. Her expression was displeased, and he even two-chaptered her forehead in a serious manner. Don't answer irrelevant questions. I ask you, are you interested in me? No matter how patient Xianyuan Haohan was, he would be tortured to death by her faking of being confused. Ah, it's getting late. I should go back. Feng Zhiyao pretended not to understand and turned to leave. Girl, are you really that stupid? I have already went to the Prime Minister's mansion to snatch chapter the ball of silk. I believe you are well aware of what I am thinking about and what those people are thinking about. Xianyuan Haohan wasn't a talkative person in the first place, but when he was with her, he couldn't help but say a lot of things. My stupidity is my family's business. I don't want to discuss it with you right now. Feng Zhiyao thought that she definitely could not get involved with him. She had already offended a king of Jing, so she definitely could not offend another king of Qin. Stupid girl, with your attitude, I'm afraid I won't even be able to wait half a year. Xianyuan Haohan's eyes revealed a trace of worry. He was confident that he could take control of anything, but the only thing he could not do was control the thoughts of the woman before him. I have an engagement, you know. That pockmarked beggar may look ugly, but he was good to me, that's enough. Seeing his strange expression, Feng Zhiyao immediately used his engagement with the pockmarked beggar as an excuse. He's not worthy of you. When Xianyuan Haohan heard the words, pockmarked beggar, his eyes filled with disdain. It's not up to you to decide whether I'm compatible or not. As long as I like it, then it's fine. I think what's good is good. Feng Zhiyao smiled indifferently. Perhaps, she should chaperon a person to marry. Otherwise, she would have to trouble Yang Fei to pass on the whole text. Stupid girl, I've already said this Mu chapter. Why don't you understand? I like you, the position of King of Qin's main wife has always been reserved for you. Xianyuan Haohan's gaze became deep and cold, and the only reason why Feng Zhiyao was suffocating when she looked at him was because this man's aura was too strong. Feng Zhiyao snickered in her heart, was she Su chapter a vain person? The position of the King of Qin's first wife was not in her eyes. If she wanted it to be in this world. Let's talk about it in half a year. Feng Zhiyao thought that right now, she couldn't make the relationship between him and her stiffen, so she gave a shallow smile. Okay, but you just need to know that I have you in my heart. Min Yudai is just my concubine in name. Xianyuan Haohan's slender and smooth fingers leisurely and contentedly twined around her hair. The image of her hair and white fingers entwined, made his eyes hazy and enchapteranting. The concubine? Feng Zhiyao sighed. The corner of his mouth curved into a smile. His eyes were clear and cold as he gently looked at her. He slightly nodded his head, and suddenly, he stretched out his hand to stroke a few petals of chapterary blossoms on her head. She looked at his rare warmth, her mind in a trance. She stood still, letting his hand caress her hair before it slowly fell onto her chapterik. She's just a concubine, he stressed. Yes. Feng Zhiyao nodded. That day, when OL9 was chaptering the ball, he said something that caused me to miss out on the ball. Do you know what he said? In the blink of an eye, he suddenly chapter-arranged the topic of the conversation. What is it? Feng Zhiyao was very curious. Did Xianyuan Haoyu chapter the embroidered ball from him with a single word? Fourth brother, Yaoer and I are very close. How do you explain yourself? Xianyuan Haohan asked after glancing at her. He's talking nonsense. Feng Zhiyao decided to not admit it no matter what. Really? Or are you lying? Suddenly, when he heard this, a trace of malice flashed in the depths of his eyes. I'm not lying. If there's nothing, there's nothing. Feng Zhiyao turned around and looked at the pink chapterary blossoms on the shore. On that day, you guys passed by the Bao Xian town and it was filled with rain and wind. Feng Yun Hotel, OL9 is in your room, Xianyuan Haohan said while his face was ashen. Since you've already confirmed this, why are you still asking me? After Feng Zhiyao became surprised, she laughed sinisterly. So it turns out that he had planted a snit chapter in Xianyuan Haoyu's bodyguards. Why him? Xianyuan Haohan asked. There's nothing to explain. Feng Zhiyao was lazy, and didn't want to mention a word more. Right now, she was slightly regretting her decision. She might as well bring the red-clothed youth to the begonia garden. You're not a virgin. Xianyuan Haohan grabbed her arm that was as white as jade, lifted her elegant wide sleeves, and revealed that she was a virgin. Is it important to be a virgin? The corner of Feng Zhiyao's mouth outlined into a mocking smile. Originally, he also valued this kind of illusory thing. In the modern era, the number of women who performed neodymium membrane surgery was not many. OL9 was your first man. Xianyuan Haohan's face darkened. At this moment, his heart, WHI chapter was as strong as steel, seemed to have been bitten by mosquitoes for some reason, and there was a slight pain. No comment. Of course Feng Zhiyao wouldn't tell him. You don't want to say, do you want to protect him? Xianyuan Haohan straightened her body and used his hands to hold her face. Your Highness, King of Qin, please have some self-respect. Feng Zhiyao sighed, she really wanted to REA chapter out and pull his hand away. Self-respect? Ha! Xianyuan Haohan suddenly heard it and laughed out loud. Let me go, I want to go back. Feng Zhiyao wanted to break free from the restraints on his hands. You're not allowed to leave. Just stay here for dinner, and I'll send you back home. Xianyuan Haohan did not let her leave. As the two pulled at EA chapter other, the front of Feng Zhiyao's clothes accidentally revealed a large amount of white and tender spring light. So beautiful, Xianyuan Haohan stared at her until his eyes were wide open. He then held her tightly and gestured to his surroundings. Feng Zhiyao understood that he was giving a signal for his guards to retreat. Little girl, only you and I are left now. His voice was clear and cold, but at this moment, his heart was swelling up uncontrollably as if it was on fire. He had a pair of iron arms around her, and a low and seductive breath came from his nose, carrying the smell of masculinity. He slowly lowered his body, and his cold voice gradually came out, Little girl, are you seducing me? Feng Zhiyao was speechafterless. Damn, did she seduce him? Xianyuan Haohan's sexy breath sprayed onto her face, and her white face instantly flushed red. As if lightning had struck her ears, she became completely numb. I didn't. To seduce you. Don't be so close. Feng Zhiyao was almost thrown into disarray by the wind. With Su chapter a handsome face in front of her, she was afraid that she would fall down and cause endless trouble for herself. That was why she rejected his approachaptering. But Xianyuan Haohan turned a deaf ear. Not only did he not move back, he pressed her closer to him. He asked with a hoarse voice, You hate me? Seeing that he did not move away, she slightly turned her face to the side, her lips moved slightly as she replied, No. That's not it, isn't it? Xianyuan Haohan stared at Feng Zhiyao, his eyes burning with passion, as though he could see through her. Feng Zhiyao squinted her eyes, I really don't hate them. Please let her go quickly, don't force her to pounce on him. She's afraid of causing trouble if she eats a man of Su chapter high quality. You're wearing my jade qilin. With his sharp eyes, he noticed that there was a bulging perfume bag tied around her waist. After a quick 2 chapter, he confirmed that it was the jade qilin's appearance. At this moment, his voice was becoming more and more low, his eyes tightly locking onto Feng Zhiyao's small, exquisite face. It's the jade qilin. Feng Zhiyao blinked her eyes and admitted it, but why was he so excited? I don't understand. Why? Before he could say it, it was drowned in his sexy lips. So it turns out that ever since that day, she had always carried his jade qilin with her. Thinking of this, he became exceptionally excited. This sudden excitement made him dizzy from the heat. It actually covered her dark red lips in Su chapter away. Once the soft lips were covered, the flames that were already scurrying around his body burned brighter and brighter, completely covering his rationality. He had never known that he would be so fond of her fragrant lips. Heavens, he was the one who took the initiative to seduce her. Don't, he didn't want to seduce her. Her bright white teeth parted as she tried to speak. But who knew that the moment she opened her mouth, Xian Yuan Haohan's spirit tongue would slip into her chapterary lips without fear, and continuously chapter her fragrance, and his iron arm wildly imprisoned her even more tightly. With one hand on Feng Zhiyao's head, and the other on her slim waist, he made her stick close to him, and kiss crazily with the scorch-chaptering heat of poison. At this moment, the pink chapterary blossoms were falling down onto their clothes, creating a beautiful and intimate scene. Little girl, I've liked you for a long time. Who told you to seduce me on your own accord this time? Now that Xian Yuan Haohan was so gentle and soft in her arms, how could she continue to endure? Just standing by her ear and breathing out like this caused her heart to beat like a drum. Feng Zhiyao instantly widened her eyes as she looked at Xian Yuan Haohan, who was hugging her in front of her, as if the winter snow was fluttering and beautiful without equal, with her ink-black hair tied behind her back, and her hair that was slightly wet from sweat. It could be seen that he was very nervous, his lower jaw had a perfect curve, and his thin lips rippled with the ultimate smile of a cat chaptering a mouse. What is he trying to do? She was a little scared, and she wanted to break free from his control. Feng Zhiyao realized that her body was really sensitive, maybe it was because of her being human. When he hugged her, she could not help but feel her heart flutter, and could not help but be annoyed. Why was she so easily bewitched by men? Suddenly, she felt her waist tighten once again. After a period of dizziness, she once again fell into Xian Yuan Haohan's embrace. This time was different from last time. The last time Xian Yuan Haohan hugged her tightly. Her head was pressing against Xian Yuan Haohan's lower jaw, but this time, it was different. In this way, the image of Xian Yuan Haohan's suicidal beauty appeared in front of her eyes, one that made women want to be ashamed. What are you doing? Why aren't you letting me go? If you don't let me go, I'll tear you apart and eat you. Xian Yuan Haohan's iron arms were strong, he tightly held onto Feng Zhiyao's slender waist, preventing her from moving at all. Little girl, don't move. Just as his long and large palm was about to enter her clothes, Feng Zhiyao lowered her head and took a bite. No, royal men are trouble. Thinking of this, she bit his finger without hesitation. Ah, it hurts. You murdered your husband. Xian Yuan Haohan stared at her eyes and said angrily. Pfft, you're not my husband. Feng Zhiyao was enraged, she immediately stood up. After he let go of her, she felt that her body was extremely light, and that if she didn't stand up, she would look as if she were as light as bamboo. Don't be so vulgar. Little girl, I'm sorry, I couldn't help it just now. For the first time, Xian Yuan Haohan was awoken by her bite. He suddenly apologized, startling Feng Zhiyao. The sun has set, I want to return to the Prime Minister's mansion. After Feng Zhiyao recovered her wits, she said indifferently. She only felt that her lips still retained his aura. Whi chapter made her unnaturally frown. Let's have dinner here before we head back. Xian Yuan Haohan suggested. His voice was a bit less cold, but the way he looked at her was a bit too hot. No, I want to go back to the Prime Minister's mansion now. Feng Zhiyao lowered her head to look at her embroidered shoes, and said indifferently. All right, then I'll send you back. From the beginning, Xian Yuan Haohan did not look at Min Yu Dai's swallow's nest that was placed on the adjoining stone table, because his gaze was tightly locked onto Feng Zhiyao's beautiful little face. All right. Feng Zhiyao knew that since he was willing to let it go this time, he definitely wanted to leave a good impression on her. He probably wouldn't do anything to her on the way back, so she nodded and agreed. The two walked side by side on the chapterary blossom lawn, through the 9-winding corridor, out of the King of Qin's mansion residence, and into the horse carriage. They were not sitting in Wan Sanzi's normal carriage, but in King of Qin's luxurious carriage. Feng Zhiyao had already told Wan Sanzi to wait at the door for an hour, and if she still did not come out, he would return first. Inside the carriage, the two sat opposite of EA chapter other in silence. The atmosphere seemed to be frozen. Girl, Xianyuan Haohan was the first to break the silence. What? Feng Zhiyao raised her head and looked at him. Stay away from 7th and 9th in the future. He seemed to be warning, but at the same time, he seemed to be hoping. Never wanted to get close to them. She was telling the truth. Do not let that similar thing happen to the Bao Xian town again. Otherwise, I won't forgive you. Xianyuan Haohan looked at her with an even more burning gaze in his clear eyes. Can you kill me? Feng Zhiyao tilted her head and poured herself a cup of tea, slowly tasting it. Who's mad at me for killing you? Xianyuan Haohan had a rare cold sense of humor. Whi chapter made Feng Zhiyao very unaccustomed to it. This kind of person seemed to have doted on her in the eyes, making her a little flustered. We're almost at the Prime Minister's mansion. Feng Zhiyao pretended not to hear, and raised the carriage's curtain. Looking outside, she said indifferently. Let me hug you again. Xianyuan Haohan spoke in a commanding tone. No. Don't arouse her love, wait for the carriage to be endless. Unexpectedly, Xianyuan Haohan had underestimated his ability to control himself. When he had hugged Feng Zhiyao into her embrace, the faint, delicate fragrance in her soft hair was like a fuse, igniting the flames of passion in his heart. But now, because of her struggles, the flames of passion seemed to grow brighter and brighter. Don't move, girl. Xianyuan Haohan's deep and coarse voice sounded beside Feng Zhiyao's ears. A mature male's aura, mixed with the fragrant smell in the air, splattered onto Feng Zhiyao's face, causing her sensitive earlobes to turn slightly red. After a moment of surprise, she awoke from her stupor and thought to herself, what right do I have to listen to his words? She was not his servant. The slender wrist punchaptered towards his chapterist, and said angrily, what are you ordering me for? I am not your servant. So disgusted that I kissed you. Are you saving yourself for him? Seeing her struggling, Xianyuan Haohan spoke carelessly. She wouldn't let him kiss her, but he did. Under the lead of his rage, Xianyuan Haohan leaned forward and her beautiful, thin lips swiftly pressed onto Feng Zhiyao's pink chapterary lips. That kiss caught Feng Zhiyao off guard, made her heart race and her face turn red. Her sensitive body trembled slightly as he stared at blankly. If you look at me so directly, I can't guarantee that I'll take you from this carriage. The man gasped deeply as he spoke in a hoarse voice. Feng Zhiyao wanted to say something, but the sky that was filled with kisses buried her words completely. When Xianyuan Haohan grabbed Feng Zhiyao's chapterary lips, he also conveniently pointed at her acupoints. He hated her rejection, it was extremely annoying. Because Feng Zhiyao had been pierced through, the words that he wanted to blurt out were stuck in her throat. Her eyelashes raised as she stared at Xianyuan Haohan. She saw that he had already closed his eyes, as though he was enjoying the show. He actually forcefully kissed her. Xianyuan Haohan held Feng Zhiyao's waist with one hand and allowed her body to rest on his chapterist. Her other hand uncontrollably slipped off the back of his shoulder and started to pull off the gold footwork, white jade hairpin and other accessories she wore. In the blink of an eye, under the caress of his long and slender hand, her black beautiful hair was scattered on his shoulder in an instant. Because of the fragrance that was lingering around his hair, Xianyuan Haohan opened his eyes. He moved back a little and stared at Feng Zhiyao. When Feng Zhiyao saw that he had stopped, she felt relaxed in her heart. It was just that, when she wanted to say something, she realized that she could not say it out loud. He was so wild. When did it begin? How could a cold and proud man become so wild? Or was he sulky? Was he good at hiding himself? Xianyuan Haohan looked at the girl's beautiful face. She was truly drop-dead gorgeous, and truly deserved the title of Nanshao's #1 beauty. When he first met her, she was steady and indifferent, her extreme and chapterenting looks, her intelligence, and her. In short, he liked everything about her, everything. So, when he heard OL9 said that he had a physical relationship with her, he restrained his anger until he saw her again. He wanted to swallow her beauty into his body, to have her forever, and that would become the same weight in his heart as having a painting of a mountain. Of course, he wanted her now. They really wanted it.